This is
All right,
incredibly chill.
It is. It might be about 3 seconds too long. I'll have to figure that one out. Thank you guys for coming. I wanted to start off to tell everybody what the hell I am doing, because I'm sort of pulling a fast one, I guess, on everybody. I don't know. Nick, you were around when I started America's Untold Stories.
Yep.
And some asshole who had some footage managed to get the channel taken down due to copyright strikes.
Right.
So rather than fighting it, I decided to, you know what, we'll just start up a new one. Now we had, a couple thousand subs, everything else, but it's like, it's only 3 weeks old. Let's start it over. We did. And then meanwhile, weeks later, I prevailed on the copyright claim. So I've been sitting here with the old America's Untold Stories, nothing to do.
Right.
Now, I'm with YouTube experts who are all, bigger and better than me, and they understand about whole niching down and getting the content or whatever. And I've thought that News with Booze might be confusing with my main channel, which is a lot about human behavior, true crime, and things like that. And some people who go there for true crime might go look at News with Booze or whatever, might feel like, what is this crap? I like body language. Well, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to see that. And I was inspired because America's Untold Stories is blowing up like crazy. People really like that. And I noticed that when I look at who watches Eric Hunley, my channel, I'm on page 3 toward the end. So the majority of the audience likes that channel for that channel. Now, I know people love the legal panels, and somebody suggested that since this is all current events, why not put it with the news? So that is the reason behind it. I had a channel kicking around. I know people love legal panels, and I'm hoping that there'll be something here for people who love the news and they love legal panels. And I'd love to get your guys' thought.
Well, I guess no one else is talking. No, I think that's a good move. One thing that YouTube loves, and what YouTube loves is important. But what YouTube loves is to have a focused channel with focused content that goes together. That's how it knows. Yes, I'll mention it in just a second. But when you have the focused content, that means YouTube knows where to deliver the content. It knows who to put it to. It knows who to try and bring into the show. And that distribution is the life or death of a channel. If you don't have YouTube's distributing you, you will not grow. You will stagnate and then eventually fade off. So I think combining things into focused sources is going to only be a net positive. So.
Okay, and on that note, folks, this is running simultaneously for the first 15 or so minutes on Eric Hunley and the new channel. I will be killing it on the Eric Hunley channel, hoping that everybody please come over, please subscribe, give it a chance. On the new channel, there's a link in the pinned comment in the top. It's also in the description. So the sooner you do it, the better. And, I'll try not to interrupt too much, but this is a manic, crazy show. Anybody who's watched this before knows that anything goes. Viva's often off the hook. Never know what he's going to think.
I'm off the hook. I'm off the hook quiet today. By the way, my hair looks particularly crazy because the light is blowing out the side. So it looks
Sure.
That's
yeah. Let's blame the lighting.
That's what happened.
My horns are coming in nice there.
At least you have hair,
man. I'm tired and angry, so that's where I'm at today.
I want to apologize for being late. I was busy trying to dig up my social security card and my passport in order to complete my application to the Seminole Order, because those are requirements.
I thought it was Liminal.
No. That's old news.
You're talking about it.
I'm joining the Seminole Order. I got to give them 2 of my credit cards. I have to have all my proof of ID. I have to get my driver's license, my passport, my social security card, because they're gonna fix my life up, and they're gonna tell me how to live my life and grow into being the true Giga Chad alpha man that I always wanted to be.
For the low price of $100 to start. To start.
I
That's
feel like
of course
that
it's
stream
a
last night
start.
must have been insane. I stayed away. I personally stayed
That
away,
was
and I feel like that probably
the
was the right decision. But now I feel like I'm on the outside.
that was the most genius stream.
Alita,
That was the most genius stream I've
sometimes it's
ever
not
seen in my
bad to be
life.
on the outside.
yeah, true.
Does anybody feel pity for him? I mean, I think David and I might be the outliers here. I don't know, but I'm kind of like,
I did.
it's getting borderline close to somebody becoming violent over a situation.
I felt pity at first, but he's been handed a shovel, and he chose to keep digging. That's the issue that I have is, the situation from my perspective, from my end was, I made a couple tweets on it. No, Phoenix Lord Asterman, that's beta behavior. Nope, you can't get in the Seminole Order that way. I was done with it, and then he sends me a bunch of direct messages saying, "Hey, you know, our mutuals, you don't look good to our mutuals doing this. You need to take down those tweets."
Wait, he
You
said
should
this to
delete-
you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I thought I saw some screenshots of somebody else posting that he said the same thing to them.
He did that to the quartering also.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's what it
yeah.
was. Yeah.
To our mutuals. Yeah.
And
Everyone's
so,
got you have to stop mocking me, otherwise you're gonna look bad to people who know us both.
and so the
I'm gonna
quartering
look bad.
did. The quartering did. He deleted a bunch of tweets, and he said, "Okay, you know, whatever." And then at the same time, Jack was creating a war room in his liminal order area to go after the quartering, to go after Elijah Schaefer and Sidney Watson. And you know, he did the thing where he tagged Glenn Beck. He ran to Dad. He ran to Dad to go after, like he's been immolating himself, and the root of all this is his whole thing was a misrepresentation. When the article came out, it was, oh man, that was back in 2015. You know, that I clearly don't believe that anymore. And then it's like, well, but the Chatterbait stuff's on 2019. So
They don't know about the Chatterbait stuff. They don't know.
Oh, I saw that, and I have to admit I shared it with David, so it wasn't only my eyes that got harmed.
Oh, okay. So then I do know about the. I'm not sure
Well-
if LegalBytes she doesn't know about it. Yeah,
I'm not
Chatterbait.
sure. I saw some images that were passed around on Twitter, and I
Right.
decided not to click on those thumbnails. And I'm thinking,
Why?
glad
I
I
didn't even
did.
know what Chatterbait was until this story. I had no idea what Chatterbait was until this story.
Is that the
broke.
same thing that I'm thinking of, or is this
If you're
something
if you're
different?
thinking about if you're thinking about Jack Murphy's butt, then yes, it's the same thing.
if you're thinking
because-
you've seen his feet over his head, then yes, it's the same thing.
All right.
Viva, I'm supposed to tell you why my stream is down though.
Yeah,
Someone sent me a censored video that we could share, right? That took out, you know, the nasty bits, but their censorship block in the middle of the video drops, and suddenly there's a fleshy pouch and a booty hole on my live stream, and I'm like, oh, kill it. So I had to do the YouTube edit with the blurring tool.
Oh god, and that takes hours and hours and hours
Days,
to restore.
days. You can. I went
So-
like a day and a half.
So it's unlisted. It's unlisted right now, but I mean, it's still there. It'll kill the live stream commentary. Unfortunately, goes when you do that, I think. But it's there. If you follow the link, you can still watch it. But I had to do the edit for the purposes of
Saving your
of that.
channel.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that was
Well-
so yesterday. For those who didn't get the joke, is yesterday Drex was on Nick, and they had what was
You mean Nick's
arguably-
channel?
no, I meant
Little-
both.
Well,
column
yeah,
A,
you know,
little column B.
I meant both actually, but I appreciate you pointing that out. So
Brother, this is how you know Alita's mind has now been warped and tainted by the general.
Yeah.
crowd.
I've been
Well
hanging
done,
out with you
people.
guys for too long.
it's all you, Viva. You're like the secret plant for like the minds of the perv. But
Minds of the
Well,
bird.
yeah, but that's so last night. So everyone. So Jack Murphy has the liminal order, and yesterday there was a great, brilliant parody by Nick and Drix, where they donned these big beards and were advertising for the Seminole Order, which is an order designed to teach you how to be the perfect cuck. and they were reading from Jack Murphy's
Oh
article,
my.
and I have to tell you something. It's
no.
genius on a comedic level. It was genius on a financial level, because in order to join, you had to pay $100 super chat. They literally let off like 30 of these super chats, these $100 super chats. Of all these people who want to be part of the Seminole Order. And by the way, brilliant comedy. Like really, like, I mean, everyone was like just dying.
By the way,
you
Joe,
can look away.
Nick just took you back to grift school. It's like,
yeah, oh yeah.
That was like,
I was humbled.
Like
I'm not even kidding. When
level.
I literally was humbled. I was like, I've never come up with anything nearly this brilliant in any field, in anything ever. It was brilliant. I was on.
It was completely on the fly too. Had no plan for any of that.
I know, but it was just genius. It was really genius.
Oh my goodness.
I agree. I love how degenerate LawTube is as well. It is kind of funny to consider. It's like, okay,
we're only human.
Where do I have the most manic shows? Oh, put on a bunch of lawyers. Go figure.
Lawyers laugh so we don't cry or do worse.
And while we're on a happy subject, obviously, you latest case, Ghislaine, is that how you say Ghislaine? Maxwell. I know I'm on other channels and they can't say her name out loud or whatever. It gets really weird, but
yeah, then Voldemort appears if you do.
What do you guys think of that? I mean, obviously, she got found guilty. Okay, of multiple charges, but is that actually getting justice, or is it a matter of, okay, here you go, look, somebody's convicted, time to move on, nothing to see here?
Look, this is I'll jump in on this one because this is something that I find more relevant, and it is
completely unrelated to the question, but more relevant. Yes.
Yeah, it's a good pivot, Eric. Yeah, that's a black pill for many people. People are saying that we need to give the lowdown on the pills. I don't know who doesn't know them by now, and I don't know, maybe there's some that I don't know about. Red pill is go back to living in oblivion. Blue pill is
opposite.
Damn it. Blue pill is go back to living in the Matrix, oblivion. Red pill is wake up and remove yourself from the Matrix. Black pill is lost all hope, and white pill is inspiration, optimism,
or maybe hopium.
So this conviction of Ghislaine Maxwell, and then I haven't read anywhere that they've sealed the documents. I saw Jack Posobiec tweeted it, but I didn't see it reported in mainstream media. Has the file been sealed, or just certain elements?
The file was not sealed. No, this is Jack Posobiec. I don't know what the heck he tweeted. He tweeted out something saying that now that the case is over, the entire case is sealed. And I don't know.
I don't think he said.
I don't know where he got that.
I think he said CIA or some certain documents. I have to go find his tweet.
Oh, but God!
By the way, not to call Jack wrong. Jack is right before people know he's right more often than not. So I just hadn't read it, and then I googled, Fox and whatever. Can't see that the file's been sealed any more than it's been sealed already.
Right,
but
right. No, so there was some sealing beforehand. I think if you think about this for a second, what would be the logic in sealing some file after it's already been released to the public in court records? That's literally like going to the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean and trying to seal up the holes in the Titanic. Like, why would you bother trying to fix those holes once it's already gotten out to the public? It doesn't make any sense at this point to try sealing it.
Let's seal the Titanic.
Yeah.
Well, but didn't they? When Jussie Smollett got his DPA, didn't they seal and expunge that?
When he got his.
But
that was never public.
Okay, that might be the bigger distinction.
If something is never public, it makes sense to keep it sealed. But what I'm saying is they don't. There's no. Look, I spoke to everyone who I spoke to Matthew Lee about this. I finally met him right after the verdict. I finally met him right outside. I spent 15 minutes on his live stream. We were talking about it. And right around then is when Jack Posobiec was tweeting that out. I had asked him, do you know anything about this thing being sealed by Judge Nathan at the end? He's like, no, I didn't see anything. I actually missed the reading of the verdict, even though I was in the building, because I ran in there in time. As soon as I saw the tweet, verdict's coming, I was a block away. I went running to the building, went through the whole security thing. I was like, you know what? Maybe I can get into the jury room. I hit the elevator, a different elevator than normal. And all of a sudden, the elevator started going to the third floor, starts going down. And it goes down to the basement. And I was stuck in an elevator for 15 minutes. And I wasn't even really worried about missing it because I was like, I'm going to have like at least an hour before they're going to actually read the verdict. By the time I got up to the first floor there, I see all the reporters rushing out. And I was like, what happened on the match? So like, verdict's done. I'm like, are you out of here? Are you kidding me? I missed the freaking verdict.
Oh,
So
that's horrible.
yeah,
But-
I feel like
just-
I was the primer horse.
You gotta
But-
you gotta get that zombie condition, that zombie land conditioning in next time, so that block doesn't take you so long to run. Come on, Joe.
But
You gotta limber
about
up.
sealing after verdict, I've had that. I used to be and when I was at the Bronx DA, that used to happen all the time with us. We used to have this special court for sex trafficking, and sometimes we, let's say for instance, we'd have prostitutes, and we would give them a diversionary program where they would go into, say, a program, and then if they completed the program, we would then seal the file. So before then, anybody can come and see the file and do all that. But then after they complete their program, and for sentencing, we would seal the file going forward. So it's possible that even though they were exposed previously during the trial phase, they would be exposed after verdict because it was we would give them like ACDs. Adjournments and contemplation of dismissals.
Okay, I want to jump on this for a second, and I also need to shut down the other stream. First off, somebody paid good money, usually grumpy. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I understand you're trying to get a refund on your lifetime, but hopefully you paid in Australian dollars, not American dollars. You get a little bit more money, but you bring up a very important subject, and everybody please go to the pinned comment or the description and continue to follow the show if you're on the Eric Hunley channel. I'm going to drop that one right now. And for everybody else, Joe,
Yep.
my friend Joe,
How are you?
you are a Gen Xer.
No,
I know it's hard for you to understand.
I'm older than Gen X. That's my point.
No, you were not older than Gen X. You
Joe's
may,
50
in
Joe,
your
you're 50.
mind, think you are, but
51.
no.
He's 51 years old.
Yeah.
And I am
Thank
51
you.
years old.
Thank you. I've got, I'm a month older than, I think I'm a month older than Eric. I'm not even a month. I'm born June 25th. When's yours? It's 1970.
July 8th.
July. So like 2 weeks older.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
as somebody born within 2 weeks of you, I know what my generation is.
At what
And I've
point
known
did you
this-
become, okay, let me point this out. Okay. You were,
Here we go.
Oh,
Here we go.
I think you ended the wrong stream. Oh no, never mind.
No.
Okay,
you're
sorry.
you're
just
watching
kidding.
the wrong stream.
I'm in the wrong chat.
Please come over.
Yeah.
Gotta go fast. Gotta go fast, Alita.
So yeah.
Sorry,
Let
continue.
me tell you something.
Don't mind me.
The highlight there, like in the 80s, you were a teenager. Okay. That was where that's where you're sculpted. That's where you're being sculpted as a
Yes.
person.
We both watched the Breakfast Club. We both everything, which is
we were
all
into
Gen
preppies and
X.
yuppies, and Michael Jackson was the king of pop, and that was all about capitalism and hope and belief in America. And
That's Gen X.
we're gonna no, it's not.
Absolutely, it's Gen X.
No,
because it was it's a counterpoint to the boomers.
No, just
the
the
boomers
opposite.
were all
Gen
peace and
X,
love and dancing, and let's have some flowers.
Gen
and
X is
Gen
Kurt
X is
Cobain.
cynical.
Gen
Yes,
X
that
is
is
Kurt
also
Cobain.
Gen X. That is
No,
late
but
Gen X.
Grunge. You can't compare grunge to preppy. You grew up in the teenagers.
I can compare
you were a
grunge
yuppie.
to
It
punk
was all
rock.
about
They both
yuppiness and
happened in the
preppiness.
same generation, my
It's
friend.
ridiculous to say
1976,
it was the same
1977, Sex
generation.
Pistols. Punk rock, which inspired grunge, which came after the fact.
Eric, not to
Sounds like
distract
a
from the more
Rent
important
song.
thing. Did you direct the 900 people who were on your Eric Hunley to this stream before shutting it down clearly enough?
I hope so, but
No, because we have 6 people watching us.
Too late now, Viva. Too
Okay,
late.
and now, by the way, Gen X, what was in between Baby Boomer and Gen X?
I'm saying what I'm saying is we had with the yuppies and preppies. That whole thing is not part of Gen X. That's not. Who thinks that's part of Gen X?
Wait, so are you saying you're a boomer?
No,
He's trying
no.
to-
What I'm saying is there's between
He's a
Gen X
millennial.
and Boomer. There's you have yuppie and preppy between there. Just because we don't have a label, we defy labels. Okay, we
No,
defy it.
mother-
But our
no.
age, where we're all about yuppies and preppies, Gen X the whole point of Gen X, the entire point is that they did not have hope for the future. That's how they initially were defined. It's the exact opposite of our era, where we grew up watching Family Ties and capitalism and Cosby
These
Show.
happen at the same time, just like in every other generation. Things happen at the same time.
That's like
Gen
saying,
X
Obama and
latchkey
Trump
kids.
were presidents at the same time.
They
That's
were.
ridiculous. It doesn't make any sense. They were? Wait.
Yeah. Yep, they were president at the same time. I can't believe you weren't here for this, Joe.
You see, getting Joe to understand a generation is like getting Nick to acknowledge Australia. I mean, I don't know what's going on with this.
Well, Joe, you do understand that there's some overlap, right? Like if you're born right in between, there's like no clear like year. It's kind of like, you know.
I understand. Okay, you want to say that there are people on the cusp, but obviously you can't have someone born one day and someone else born next day, and some people are born every day. So theoretically, there's going to be some blending in there.
Yes, but
Do
you
you
and I
have
are right
any
in the middle.
empirical data
right
on
in the
people
middle.
being born every day, Joe? I mean,
What
I
I'm-
don't know about
at
that.
at the
Do you have
same
a study.
At the same time, who here would ever confuse? Tell me this: would ever confuse Michael Jackson with Kurt Cobain? I mean, how do you say that's the same era? That doesn't even make sense to me.
It's
Well,
also
they're
the same
two
era as
different-
hair bands,
They're
Joe.
two different genres.
You have
Yeah,
Michael
different genres.
Jackson at the same time as hair heavy metal bands. They're completely different, but guess what? They happen simultaneously in the same generation.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Yeah. Heavy metal bands definitely part of the 80s. You think Kurt Cobain wanted to have anything to do with any of
No,
those genres?
He wanted to do with the punk revolution, which was also part of Gen X. That
He
took
wasn't
place
even
in
part
the
of punk.
70s.
He wasn't punk.
He was very much
started
influenced by
alternative.
punk.
He started alternative
Oh,
music.
bullshit. He didn't start alternative. REM was around before Kurt Cobain. Alternative is just
Yeah,
a
you know what?
format of
REM
where
was
you go
part of
on
Gen
the radio.
X. REM is part of Gen X.
Yes,
It
they are.
wasn't Messages
And
of Hope. And that was in the early 90s. Gen X, I mean, Kurt Cobain was like a little, I think he was a little bit late. I don't remember when he really hit his
Kurt
peak
Cobain
there.
almost let in the millennials, if you want to get on it, because it's on the cusp of that generation. Because David, when did you go to high school? Because you're like a tail end of the Gen X.
I graduated 96.
Okay, and that was full on Kurt Cobain. So you had
That was
Kurt Cobain in high
Cobain,
school,
that other-
and
the other
year
band.
after you were millennials. So I would say that the whole grunge scene actually helped lead.
Yeah, he's
in.
hardcore Gen X. Exactly. He's hardcore Gen X.
No,
I
he's
graduated
millennial.
12
No,
years before him.
No,
I'm
No,
not
it's
millennial.
on the
I'm not millennial. But anyway, I
No,
don't know.
you're Gen
I
X.
listen to
You're
Fish,
Gen X.
so-
right,
There-
you're
there
at
are
the
charts-
end.
He was Gen X.
I'm the guy on the literal cusp because I was born 1981, and some charts have Gen X going a little bit past 1980, and others have it going a little bit before. But 1980 is like the average cutoff for Gen X, born in
Yes.
1980.
Well, on more important, not to change the subject to something that might be more relevant, current, and
Well,
punching upwards. Did everyone see Eric Swalwell's tweet thread from
Oh my
earlier today?
God. Yes.
About him having gotten a DM threat from an individual, and then he messaged him and he got his name and he got him to admit that he was radicalized by Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan, and then he made it public after using his secret spy skills to get this guy's name by
Yikes.
befriending him and
His spy skill is asking his girlfriend.
well,
That's probably where he got the
that-
information.
Jussie
That's one of
Smollett.
the
This is
more-
what the story is. The
Hold
story
on,
is
let-
new
let-
Jussie.
let-
It's the newest Jussie Smollett story. This is what this is. This
Let
is
me flip
totally
it to
fake.
Eric, who might
It's
be able to
totally
bring it up.
fake.
Fake
It's
is not
totally-
the word. This is, as I referenced, an orgy of evidence. So let me just get.
Hold
the
on,
link.
Eric Swalwell, is that's the congressman with the Chinese? Remember? the
Yeah, that's
Chinese-
why I said he
Yeah.
got it from his girlfriend.
Yeah, don't you remember? Like fang
irony here.
fang on the
Yeah,
floor,
fang,
baby,
fang.
fang fang.
She was going around having sex with like all the mayors from like Democratic mayors from all these different cities and stuff. That she was like, they
Who the
loved
fuck
her.
when you can't when you no, but so his tweet thread, Eric, I just sent it to you so you can bring it up. But the text messages, I mean, it's as badly scripted as two white men with MAGA hats walking around Chicago at 2 a.m. In a polar vortex, screaming, "This is MAGA country."
No.
No.
Nate has to
No.
do that.
Yes,
That is
yes,
officially Nate.
You've destroyed it. No. It's not. This is MAGA country from this Canadian stuff. No. Let's make it very
Yeah,
clear.
I can't believe that. Yeah.
It is. You got to say it with the Nigerian accent too. You got to get the deuce. So it's
This.
Buddha. See, it's not brother. Buddha. This is MAGA country. It's all in the throat. It's all in the throat.
And it
I,
has to be projected to the heavens too.
you know what,
That's
wait,
a
wait,
very important part.
Wait, Nate. I think we need you to hold on. We got to have you do that again because somebody is going to be capturing.
Oh,
One
for the
time.
thing, brother. This is MAGA country. There it is.
Sorry, I have to have that. I hope everybody's watching.
No, but you know, it's always so funny how easily I think people are fooled because of these things because they want to be fooled. Like so many people wanted to believe the Jussie Smollett story, right? Even no matter how ridiculous it was. Like when we come back and think about it now, it was just so ridiculous. It was like, you know, but I think people wanted to believe Trump was a racist, wanted to believe that Jussie Smollett was the gay Tupac, and everybody was fooled. So it is what it is.
All right, here we go.
Bring this up. It's comedic in its stupidity. But let's assume that someone on Earth is so dumb that after issuing a threat to an elected official, the first thing they would do is give their name. Just throwing that out there. Don't read the first two. You don't want to get in trouble. Hi, I'm Eric. What's your name? By the way, spoken like a true bot. And this is actually a congressman or his assistant. This is the congressman. Hi, what's your name? Jeremy. Oh, cool. I'm from California. What? As if he didn't.
We need two people doing this reading. Can I do this with you?
Okay. All right, but be careful to overlook anything that's going to get me up.
Okay. All right.
Do you want to California?
You'll be Swalwell. You'll be Swalwell, Aviva. I can't.
Okay, fine. Go for it.
Yeah. All right. So, Jeremy, by the way.
Oh, cool.
I'm
from California. You might know that already because you threatened me, apparently. But I'm just going to tell you that I'm from California. What about you?
Canada, eh?
Shoot, I might be defending Jeremy a little too hard.
No, this is fake. Whenever anyone says "I love Canada,"
I love Canada.
I love Canada.
Especially these days. Everybody loves Canada these days. Which part?
Van, you're a lot more personable than you come across.
This is what a narcissist would write if they were drafting a play in which they're the hero. He's tweeted him 5 times in DM. You're a lot more personable. I mean, this is like Eric Swalwell saying, what do I imagine and dream that someone would think of me after I'm so damn, what's the word I'm looking for, Eric? People, when you're sympathetic and you're persuasive, you are charismatic. I'm so charismatic. After 3 DMs in Twitter, this dude's telling me how personable I am. Oh, sorry. Van is the best. You're lucky to live there. Well, I want to be responsive.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm pretty choked at these accusations. Like a lot of people with regards to this Asian spy. What?
Why don't you address it? Yeah.
Why don't you address it?
I'm gonna
like we are not. This will never be seen by anyone. But why don't you address it for the public? So told by accident, you feel you were targeted.
This is true repertoire theater, folks. I mean, this is just amazing. The talent that's coming forth here.
This is Swalwell now DMing to someone else, knowing that he's going to disclose this publicly as he did in Twitter.
Yeah.
After. So he's drafting this knowing that his intention is to publish it. I did nothing wrong, as FBI said. They also said there was no insurrection, but choose to believe them when you want and disregard, whatever. Nothing else to say. And yes, I was targeted. Yeah. By a Chinese spy who knew how to get into your heart of hearts through your head of heads. Next time I'm in Van, we should grab a coffee and discuss. Or when you're in America, totally plausible. Because I'm gonna make a play date with someone on the interwebs who just threatened my life. That's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't see that article. I'm obviously right-leaning, even up here in Canada. If you were targeted, then I would be in the wrong. From articles I read, there was evidence you did know or should have known.
I am Donald Trump supporter.
I got my information from Tucker Carlson.
But hold on a second. Why did it go from purple DM to blue?
It does that as you scroll.
It's just a gradient.
To show like the time the timeliness
is this
of
Messenger or Instagram?
This looks
Instagram.
Like
I think
Facebook Messenger.
Yeah.
Because the flag on top there is a little weird.
Oh yeah.
And the camera.
This should be.
It's probably Facebook.
This should be. They could. Swalwell can give a masterclass on how not to script a play because this is okay. Yeah, I didn't. Well, I'll look you up. Nice to meet you.
All right.
Well, in fairness, he told him he was going to get doxxed.
There's more to this. I don't see.
Yeah, you got to go to the next part. It's a whole thread.
My God!
Oh my God!
Sorry, I don't want to take away from your dramatic performance. Please, continue, gentlemen. Please
Jeremy, What's your last name, Jeremy? Just so I can catch up with you when I go to Van.
What's your last name?
You're so much different than I've read about, and I assume you did, based on what I read. Well, if I give you my last name, I said some mean things to you that I shouldn't have based on this convo, so could get in some trouble.
Oh, no way. We are totally cool. No offense taken. Got to throw in a typo to make sure it's legit sincere. I'm glad we were able to clear this up.
You know what this
So
sounds
Eric,
like? It sounds like he doesn't know how to work text, so he got his 12-year-old nephew to write an exchange for him because the language ability is about on that level. Maybe
Didn't the thing open up? Forgive me. It was you should be shot, right?
No, it's
something bad. Yeah.
Traders. I think it was a broad like traders should type thing. Wow.
And then he called him a traitor.
Wow. You blow my mind, actually. I'm actually sorry for what I've said. You're more personable than I could have imagined.
Oh my god.
Personable
you've gotta
still.
be kidding
Again,
me.
personable.
I ate breakfast a while ago. I want to vomit. Listen, I want to actually throw up listening. I just figured since you know who I am, and we will get together soon, that you'd be able, that you'd tell me who you are. Hands up. We're gonna get
He did
together
a
soon.
Nazi salute. That's
All right.
the emoji for the Roman salute right there.
Oh, good point. Good point.
All right, you're
All right,
right.
you
My
convinced me.
name
You
is.
convinced-
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. I can't.
All right, you're right. My name is Jerry Marshall, and here's my credit card information and driver's license information.
Here's my Tinder page.
And I'm actually really glad we talked as well, because I was totally wrong about you from so far talking to you. Am I reading the wrong articles, or is the media targeting you as much as possible?
It's Fox News targeting. That's all. By the way, throwing this out there, I might do a vlog on this today because this is too much. If I'm Fox News, Tucker Carlson, and who's the other one, Joe Rogan, I would seriously be thinking about suing Eric Swalwell for defamation
Joe
and make
Rogan's
him
not
prove
on
that this
Fox,
exchange is legit.
Joe Rogan's not on Fox.
Well, but they wouldn't have to.
No,
They
no,
wouldn't have
no,
to prove.
Joe
They actually
Rogan-
wouldn't have to
Joe
prove
Rogan
this is legit. He would have to prove that they knew it's not legit
Yeah.
for defamation.
Yeah.
The
Actual
burden of proof would
malice.
be flipped. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, Eric, Rogan's coming up in a second. Oh,
Okay.
I feel like such an idiot.
no worry at all. Do you work in politics?
I used to donate my time to the local NDP party when they would run the then liberals a few years back. I couldn't be in politics, though, with what I guys go through and the bashing, even having to just deal with idiots like me, I guess.
I'm such a dummy.
This, by the way, I don't even know what this means because
Oh my, I'm another white idiot. White man. I'm cis male. I can't match my own socks without my wife telling me how to do it. Go.
He used to donate his time to the NDP, which is the New Democratic Party, the New Democrat Party, whatever, Democratic, whatever. That's a separate federal party from the Liberals. So he used to donate his time to the NDP when they would run then Liberals. I don't even know what it means, and it's politically incongruous because the NDP and the Liberals are two separate federal parties. I hear you. I'm right out there. What do you do for work? I used to work as a lawyer before politics.
Then I found Fang.
And before grammar. Sorry.
Found same thing.
I work as a contractor, and I'd say being a lawyer was probably easier for you than the politics. Less BS.
Oh, yeah, way easier. LOL. By the way, that's also BS because no, there's no less politics in law than there is in politics. Okay, sorry. Really got
Got
Joe,
dragged
on you.
down the rabbit hole with your new case in a bad way because you come across really easygoing and friendly. Your case.
Okay. What made you think I should be dealt with as a traitor?
You shouldn't be, obviously. I'm an idiot and got carried away on social media. Saw red because of the articles I was reading regarding you.
I'm even more offended about the battery level on this phone too, by the way. That's actually a more interesting part.
It's giving me a little bit of anxiety.
What was your last name? It's
no.
not much long. Just skip to the end.
Did
Skip
I
to the
already
end.
do that?
Where's the what's his
Nauseating.
face?
Holy
This is the most preposterous thing conceivable. This was written by a 12-year-old who
That's
wanted
the one
to
you
grab
just did.
I know. I don't want to keep coming. Okay. All right.
Totally
yeah.
uncalled for and inappropriate. And you seem like a really nice guy so far from talking to you. So I owe you an apology. It was Write it, click send, and gone. But now talking to you, I feel like such an idiot.
I'm gonna just skip to that. Oh, I'm skipping to the bottom. Oh, great, that's great. Like carpentry or havoc. That's hard work. All right. Where's
the part where Joe Rogan comes in there?
Okay, skip it.
We're pretty locked down hard these days, so a little slow. It's just pretty surreal for us to be caught up in a spy thriller situation. Even as a politician, it must be hard to fathom being targeted by a foreign government. I'll tell my relatives.
Tell my relatives in Vancouver to look up your business as they look to renovate their home.
Okay. Yeah. Wait.
No, man, I'm an idiot. I said some inappropriate things to you, which I'm sorry for because you seem very nice. The more you talk to me, the more you come across as a real stand-up guy. Thanks for being cool. I actually wish our politicians were more like you. Gonna have to read more articles, not from the right, regarding you, I guess.
Here we go. No problem. I'll send the relatives your way. Yada, yada, yada. Sorry, what news articles? Here, go to.
Weiter. Further.
Go. Get out of here.
Next one.
No. Yeah, go to the okay. What news sites? Here's the punchline, people. This is the climax of the play. This is,
Of course.
there was Kierkegaard, there was Nietzsche, there was Shakespeare. This is what news sites do you follow that made you so angry with me? Or what politicians do you listen to? Tell me, Marshall. Tell me.
Honestly, one was Joe Rogan, probably the most influential. You should be on his podcast. It would be a great debate and for his listeners to hear your side. Hold on. I'll have to check the other articles I read. Tucker Carlson slammed you too much and lost me when he started saying you had multiple STDs. So at least he went so overboard he can't be believed anymore.
Because by the way, believing someone has an STD is overboard. I mean,
I believed him. But...
it used to be per se defamatory to say someone had an STD.
It's fun time.
Anyway, this is just the biggest load of crap I've ever seen, and
Wow. All right, so on to some interesting things. We got some super chats here. Can we discuss the Epstein's prison guards charges being dropped yesterday, not making the news?
I didn't
Shocking.
These aren't the droids you're looking for. These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Didn't we know they were going to get dropped? I thought they had been dropped a long time ago because they signed they had signed some affidavits or something saying that they lied about the logs, but I thought that was in exchange for the drop. I thought that was the whole point. So I legitimately thought they had already been dropped. I didn't know they were still around at all.
Do you guys want me to explain to you what the jury must have been thinking when they actually acquitted on the second charge while they found guilt on the other 5 charges? Because it's a little complicated, though. I'm warning you.
We don't want your insight, Joe. All those hours in the courtroom.
Minimize the insight.
He was the only lawyer in the courtroom.
The only lawyer.
Technically.
Joe got into the jury room.
It's an emphasis as to why one should always qualify their I'm the only lawyer that I know of. I'm the smartest person in Canada that I know of. Okay.
By the way, hold on. Before we do anything, they have a long tradition here, and this is a new channel, and obviously it doesn't seem to matter. Already.
Real quick before we change subjects, I've actually had a conversation like that, and it took a whole lot longer to get the person to stop hating me. Yeah, it was I did a stream with the owner of Kiwi Farms after the Christchurch shooting, right in New Zealand, and the New Zealand police had lightly threatened Kiwi Farms to take down the archive footage of the Christchurch shooting. And he said, basically, F you, I'm an American. You can't make me do anything. Get a warrant from the United States a court order from the United States to do something like that. Otherwise, piss off. And so we were laughing at the idea that New Zealand was Streisanding the Christchurch shooting footage because they were trying to take it down from the entire internet. People were then looking for it, and they were actually driving traffic to Kiwi Farms. After that show, a New Zealander messaged me on Facebook out of the blue and said a whole lot of very similar things about how vile it was. I talked to this guy for like 2 hours before I was like, buddy, you weren't listening to the show. Like you read a news article about Josh Moon coming on my show. You didn't listen to the show. Let me tell you about what happened and why in America, what the New Zealand police did was such an offensive notion to our freedom of speech. And it took a long time for that person to say, okay, I guess you don't deserve to die. It was not 2 messages, right?
But maybe you didn't seem as personable as Eric Swalwell did when he said, "Hi, I'm
You're
Eric."
just not as charismatic.
Speaking of David, Viva, you've been fired from your cold read, I guess, from the chat.
Yeah, no, I'm not good at reading. I'm not good at playing roles.
It didn't have that emotion. They want a little bit of Rekieta.
Well, and Gruler does a good job making reading tweets exciting. So I know my strengths and I know my weaknesses. That's definitely a weakness.
But I do want to
said
caution.
it was the best Dear Penthouse ever. So
I do want to caution you guys. It's pretty easy to get people to say stupid stuff and confess, like, you know, and I understand it looks fake, but as someone who's taken the training and has questioned a lot of people in tough situations, they give you a lot of information that they don't want to give up. I have a video up there where I got somebody to confess to multiple felonies, right?
Yeah, you did a great job on that.
Yeah, just so.
Did he say you were a great guy and really personable?
Yes, they did. They actually told, yes, you're a great guy.
Into the conversation.
Yeah.
She didn't say personable, but she did say thank you so much.
But the question is, how long did it take?
Happens. It does happen. That took an hour, but I've gotten people in 15 minutes where I've caught in 15 minutes, and they've telling me about they're falling in bed.
I will say
it happens.
It also kind of depends on where the baseline is, right? Because if you're talking to a guy that's just called in for questions, like that's different than some guy who's so angry that he's reaching out to you in your DMs telling you about how he wants to end your life. Like that's different, a different baseline to come from. And that's a certain part of the lizard brain that you've got to try to work someone out of. And that's hard to do. I mean, just think about, getting into an intense argument with, a friend or a family member and how difficult that can be to get everybody, to a place where people can actually, see eye to eye. And then let alone this guy coming so far to say, you're a really great guy. You're a really great guy. I'm an idiot.
Well, don't get me wrong. I think everything is my spider sense is definitely tingling on this week. Yeah. This is probably fake as unbelievable fake. But I'm just saying, I just want people to understand people do give up. It's very quickly, it's happened to me and it happens in real life. So this could essentially be some idiot who is maybe even trolling or something like that. But just to say it's fake just based on the face of it, of what I've seen, it's a little bit hard because I've seen people give up. I've seen people commit to, tell me they've committed felonies in 15 minutes, right? So
but it doesn't matter. 15 minutes of Viva Frei cross or like real-time discussion is far different than 5 DMs on Instagram. That is more transparent than my grandmother's underpants. That's a Bart Simpson line, and I screwed it up. But
that sounded really bad.
I'm glad you clarified.
Why do you know about the transparency?
Bart Simpson said she's going to see through that like grandma's underpants or something. It's a line when the Simpsons used to be funny. But no, no one in there. If that turns out to be real, I will eat grandma's underpants. Okay, I'm done. I'm done with the day.
Oh my God!
Hold on.
Are we on my show?
What did you say again?
Oh I'm not saying it again. I'm not saying it again. But no, if that
I'm out of coffee to sip when I'm
right,
uncomfortable.
If that turns out to be a proven genuine, I will issue a heartfelt public apology to Eric Swalwell.
If that gets proven,
underestimate stupidity though. You can't.
If that gets proven to be legitimate, I will send $100 to Eric Swalwell's campaign. Okay.
Okay. Hey, thank you so much. We're gonna bro out with Jack Murphy. Have fun with Jack. Please don't send pictures. Thank you very much. Whoa.
Yeah, send him no, I'm kidding.
Yes, but I don't even want to think about it. But enjoy yourself, and I hope you both do very, very well.
But the reason I brought up the first 2 messages though a little bit ago is because there's an important distinction that gets muddied very quickly whenever someone's on a pity me campaign. The guy didn't threaten to do anything to Eric Swalwell. Those first 2 messages were you should be treated like a traitor
Right.
because you are a traitor. Not I will do this to you. And this is how it always goes. Oh, I received a death threat. Oh, show the death threat. And the death threat says something like, you should die of gonorrhea. It's like, that's not a death threat. That's someone.
That's a hope. That's a wish. It's not a threat.
It's someone expressing that they don't like you. I mean, obviously, don't send anything like that to your politicians, but just because you might get a knock on the door and you don't want to deal with it. But at the end of the day, you do have the freedom to express that someone should maybe get, hit by an 18-wheeler or whatever. Like that's within your rights to say stuff like that. But here's how it gets run now is, oh, this person was wishing, or not wishing, threatening death on me and my family. It's like, no, they weren't. They never were. I'm so tired of the death threat thing. They're exceedingly rare to get anything even close to a true death threat. And but the amount of times that death threats are reported by people is off the charts compared to what actually happens.
I'm looking up. I want to look up something here because I'm not sure in Canada what the punishment for treason even is, and I'm wondering if this person is mixing up American concepts with Canadian, despite the fact that they're purportedly Canadian.
Oh, good point. I'm sure in Canada it's like you have to say sorry many times.
He never said a single time, so he's not really Canadian.
Oh, I know. Obviously not.
Okay, so the treason, one who commits it is uses violence or the threat, blah blah blah. Notwithstanding, okay, and I'm going to try to get to the punishment.
Very specific in here in the United States.
2 witnesses.
Yeah, 2 witnesses and
except for that one Supreme Court case where you didn't need any witnesses and they were good with attainder of blood, but that's fine.
This is why I'm going to screenshot this for my video. This is why I think that this is actually a total fabrication drafted by an American pretending to be Canadian, because punishment. Everyone who commits an offense under subsection 1 is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 14 years. That's
like
a
light
comparison. That might not be the right crime. Hold on. So that might not be that would be the right one.
So are we thinking that Swalwell set this up, or are we thinking this is just trolling Swalwell? Because I'm assuming this maybe is like some troll.
No,
he's trying
to.
No,
it's on Swalwell's account. Somebody could be trolling him, but he put it up.
He drafted this. This was intended for public consumption, like Jussie Smollett's story, and it's just about as accurate.
I don't know. I mean, I could also see somebody that decided to just troll or go with it, and then he just saw like, oh, well, this is very friendly, like I should post this, like not realizing that somebody's actually like, maybe he actually is being trolled here. I don't know. Maybe I can see both possibilities.
Yeah, like what's your last name? Sure, my last name is Brody. Yeah. Oh, which is like, of course,
my name is John Smith.
I can see. Yeah, I live here. Like obviously, it's a troll, right? I'm not going to, and like we're saying, only an idiot would do this. So it's either one of two things. Either this is a great troll, or he is just so dumb that's going to think that we're going to believe this.
It's
Sandero brothers.
Okay, it's life imprisonment. We don't have execution. We don't have hangings in Canada. I don't know when this was amended, so I'll check to see if the punishment was once.
Don't get your vaccine in Canada, and you'll see they're changing everything up.
1974. I don't know. It was revised in 1974. So I'll look back. But this is why, to me, it sounds like
technically we don't have hanging for treason anymore either. So,
but you have execution.
Well, it depends. Hold on, Joe. It depends.
We don't have hangings. We don't.
You have
hangings
UCMJ.
anymore.
I think you may still in the military. I'd have to look it up. So
and
there are different places.
To be fair,
hanging, yeah.
1974 wasn't really Gen X either. So
this dog needs to go out.
1970.
1970 is Gen X. You're in the middle of it. You're not only Gen X, you're like Target Central. Nick is on the cusp. David is on the cusp. David's on the tail end, and Nick
I'm a
is
disco baby.
barely in there.
Baby, born in the 70s.
I'm a 70s.
How does the panel here? There's a chat from Englishman B3. How is troll legally defined panel? I'm curious as to what everyone defines as a troll.
Okay, well, I got this. This.
No, you see, that's
also define shit poster, Nick, because they go together, right?
No, I think there's a distinction. I know.
That's why I want to hear both.
Troll is simple. Picture Barbara Boxer and then put her under a bridge. That's a troll. Simple. She has to defend the bridge. She lives under the bridge. Looks like Barbara Boxer. Comes up when you try to cross. Can only die by fire or sometimes water being poured on them. Very, very dangerous, though. Very dangerous. Stay away from them. They eat people. They eat babies. Barbara Boxer eats babies.
Okay.
Okay, so here, who wants to feel the next definition of troll?
That's
that's going to have to be
19
legal.
USC 2261. I mean, it's in the U.S. code.
Okay, Alita, what are your thoughts on troll? Can you help us lay people to get a clear definition?
I can't. I don't think. Is there a legal definition of troll? I don't think so. I haven't seen one.
But Donald Trump is the greatest troll ever.
I give Michael Malice. I think Michael Malice may be the best troll I've seen.
I think Michael Malice is a shit poster, not a troll. Because I think Matt Malice is out, notwithstanding everything, to understand truth and to have exchanges of ideas via shit posting. My definition of a troll.
What's the difference then?
A troll is someone who is genuinely not interested in any form of actual discourse, just moving targets, baiting someone into a response, and engaging in disingenuous discourse,
and just completely mocking you ceaselessly.
You see, I think
this is wrong. They're trying to push your buttons, try and find your buttons and push those buttons because they know that they're your buttons and try and get.
I think you got it backwards. Because Malice calls himself a troll. And as he defines it, a troll is somebody who holds a mirror to your own actions and tweaks you in a manner that is going to get you to respond based on whatever you're doing. Shitposter is just that. They just shit post, like whatever. They throw something up. They're not interested in any discourse or anything else. They're just shitting on a timeline.
Well, this is what, when you Google it, this is what troll says. A person who intentionally antagonizes others online by posting inflammatory, irrelevant, or offensive comments or other disruptive comments. Internet trolls came in the late 90s, trying to get a response, an emotional response from their opponent. So,
God.
So look up shit.
Like looking in a mirror.
I don't want to talk about the Jack Murphy thing for one reason. There's two things. Never before did I engage in the alpha beta male discussion. I think it's not my discussion, and I don't think it exists in the first place. But more power to anybody who believes that there's something that's called an alpha male, a beta male, and anyone who believes in it might be inclined to seek advice from someone who they perceive to be an alpha male. My issue with all of this, other than it being totally irrelevant and totally personal attacks on an individual with no practical or longer lasting meaning than that, there are people who are into some bizarre things in life. And to the extent that what Jack Murphy did not harm anybody else in any overt sense, I appreciate people are going to say he misrepresented what an alpha male is. You want to misrepresent what an alpha male is? That presupposes that there's a definition of what an alpha male is that he knowingly violated. So, to me, it's high school drama. It's not something I enjoy or want to be part of. But I appreciate other people are going to do it, and that's fine. But I prefer to stick with if Jack Murphy were Rep Swalwell, this would be relevant. If Jack Murphy were Trudeau, someone accused me of being a hypocrite because I go after Trudeau. But no, when someone is making actual policy decisions and then not living by those policy things, fine. If someone says he's not a real alpha male, but he says he is. Dude, you tell me what an alpha male is, and then we can maybe engage in a discussion. But I think discussion about alpha males and beta males is not something I'm into to begin with. And when Jack was on my show, I said as much. I'm like, this is liminal order is not something I would ever be a part of, but it's something that some people might find value in. And the public excoriation of a human because they told a woman to F off. It's good for internet drama, but there's humans behind this, and I don't think that Trudeau and other policymakers deserve the scrutiny. This is a distraction and irrelevant scrutiny, in my humble opinion. That's
I think this is Elisa's brother here, and I think this sums up Malice's view on trolling, and it does work.
Andy,
it's my brother.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was trying to describe.
I love you, Andy.
Got it. The troll will do things in a manner that get people to just automatically, jump on it.
Mm-hmm. I'll give you the other side to what Viva just said, though, and that is that arguably, if he's pitching that he is the ultimate display of something, and not just pitching it for free, but he's literally grifting money out of people. How is exposing that different from?
You threw a judgmental term, grifting. He's getting money. He gets people to pay him.
I'll let you talk.
I'm a professional grifter. Hold on, you use the word grifter. We grift, baby. I'm a grifter,
it's the same thing this guy did. It's the same thing he did with the people who were raising money through GoFundMe and exposing them. So arguably, if this guy is going out there saying, I'm going to show you what true alpha male is, and I know that you don't really appreciate the term, you don't understand the term, I get that. But to those who have a concept as to what it is, and have a respect or an objective of developing themselves in that capacity, which amongst the youth today, there are a lot of people who feel helpless. They feel weak. They're the product of poor parenting often, but that they feel as if they don't have the strength to live their lives and in the way that they feel is a healthy and productive way. And they're looking to someone for guidance, and they pay $100 a month or $800 a year or $4,000 in a lump sum to someone who is portraying that he's going to show you what it is to live in that type of with that type of attitude and that type of direction. And it turns out that he is not that at all. He's the opposite of everything he's portraying. That thereby, to many people, would make him a grifter.
So it's
not
hypocrisy. Everybody hates him because of hypocrisy.
It's
hypocrisy.
He's taking money.
That.
It's hypocrisy plus price tag.
Yeah.
I
mean,
understand that.
Yeah.
I
So
just want to ask a
go
question.
ahead, Viva. Go ahead and respond.
So you're telling me that by your definitions of what an alpha male is, engaging in certain sexual activities is not alpha male, it's beta male?
Yes.
But
I think it's less about that, and it's more about his reactions to everything.
And you're getting
we'll get to. So fair enough.
No, Nick, go ahead, Nick.
Well, you're getting hung up on the alpha male beta male thing, which is like that's this 10,000-foot eagle eye view of the circumstance. This guy talks about love, relationship, family, and God as the root of everything. And while he's writing that, he and his fiance are filming pornography and putting it under a pseudonym. So it wasn't discovered until recently. And he's selling men on how to be not just alpha beta, like that's the language of the manosphere, but he's selling men on how to be good, successful, productive men in life, in business, in family. And at the same time, he's doing the opposite. I mean, and he's pitched himself. If you read the Liminal Order sales pitch, Jack Murphy, master's degree in this, bachelor's degree in this, super guy who real estate developer, hedge fund manager, CEO, CFO, CTO, all of these different things. And then he's now come out and said, sorry guys, I was filming pornography on Chatterbait because back in 2018, 2019, after he wrote his Democrat to Deplorable book, in 2019, he was filming pornography because he had to make money because he was broke. So this guy's pitching himself as super successful. He reminds me of this guy I used to work with. This is what annoys me. I worked at Thrivent Financial for a couple years, and we hired a temp, this guy named Devin. And he not legal Devin.
Not that Devin.
Legally Devin.
But a coincidence of name and personality. No.
Believe me, if you looked at this guy's much taller, much broader shoulders, and a little bit darker than Devin. Okay. But he was super fun, super personable guy. He was great, except he would always disappear for minutes at a time. Like when I say minutes, I mean like 20, 30 minutes at a time.
Drug habit.
And then I found him in a conference room with all the lights off, but he was on his cell phone. I'm like, what the hell are you doing, man? We got work to do. And he says, oh, I'm doing my other job. His other job is chief executive recruitment is what he was doing as a side job, right? This guy is a temp at a financial company, but he's trying to tell companies who makes good executive material for them to hire for like $2 to $3 million a year jobs, right? Wow. He was a charlatan. He's a liar. And it's this is the thing with Jack is that he's selling people on this image and it's a complete fabrication and people are paying a ton of money. And when you read, again, final thing on this, when you read the Liminal Order sort of pitch, he says there are 3 types of people that the Liminal Order attracts and we only want the third one. Not everyone gets in. The third one is a CEO of a company who's got their finances in order or whatever. And that's who they let in. But the reality is it's the first 2. It's guys who are either really young and are looking for guidance, or it's guys who are recently divorced and are questioning, everything they know about their masculinity. These are 2 groups of people who are disproportionately able to be exploited for cash based on this system. He's not recruiting the CEOs. He's recruiting a bunch of guys who fit the category of beta. And if you never fix a beta, they keep giving the alpha the money. That's what's going on. That's why people hate it. It's not this alpha beta
So he's
language.
like Jimmy Swaggart as a good analogy, right? Jimmy Swaggart, you know, father of a church. Meanwhile, with all the prostitutes on the side, sleeping around, doing all kinds of crazy, you know.
Or Jerry Falwell Jr. Right?
Yeah, but
Jerry
these guys don't have. Even though what I would say makes him worse is that he has an entrance fee. You don't have to pay Jimmy Swaggart. You can listen to his stuff and or Swalwell.
Swalwell.
Yeah,
Swalwell.
Swalwell.
Yeah, Swalwell.
Yeah, you know, you're embedding the character, Joe. Is it? It's your identity. You're going to start wearing it. Okay.
Listen, you were on the other side of that text, Joe.
And here I am as the Jew defending the crooked pastors who are ripping people off.
Prosperity gospel, baby.
No, I will say. I mean, it does to me. I was not familiar at all with Jack Murphy before this whole thing kind of blew up and I started to sort of see things on Twitter. But it does seem to me that this is a guy who is marketing himself as someone that you can pay money to tell you how to live your life and how to improve your life, which is fine. But, you know, I do understand the outrage that people have when they find that his walk is not the same as his talk. Because I mean, when you're asking for people to reach into their pockets for your you know, supposed expertise, I can understand that. And this is all just and in fact, this whole situation is a very big education for, I think, everyone, in terms of, you know, how to act, whether you're a man or a woman, but like, you know, how to act on social media and how specifically not to act. Which is like I think the biggest irony in this whole sort of thing is that his whole shtick is like telling people how to act, how to live your life, how to be better. And it's showing that he's a pretty good example of, in fact, what not to do.
Turned out his best lesson to the entire world was free.
Oh, there you go. By the way, I love this. 101 at 101. Thank you so much. And it almost looks like a bidding war. 101. Yes, you are the top chat. Thank you so much.
You can be that. First of all, Viva goes on about poor JM that he gives uplifting messages. So, by the way, straw manning, as in Viva goes on about poor. I'm not. First of all, I don't go on. What I simply said is that Murphy now is putting out a positive message. You guys don't pay for the freaking message. I don't pay for it. I don't pay people to talk about alpha male or beta male. I don't need that direction in my life. This is not a Madoff situation where he's not lying to you, getting you into a pyramid scheme. He's giving you decent advice for people who might need it.
He is getting you into a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, that's a pyramid scheme.
Yeah, when you get into the liminal order, the next thing that you find is more money going in to buy particularized classes or enter particular rooms.
Okay, that kind of stuff.
I mean, it is.
So he's gone to the Scientology school.
I will agree on one thing. Jack's reaction to that question was juvenile. It was arguably not alpha male for anyone who buys into that crap. It wasn't polite, and it was incidentally, you know, not reacting properly to the bad things that the things for which he's embarrassed in real time that he did in the past. All right, good. Do you think I'm going to now use that? Say, fine, let's execute him. Let's demonize him. Let's ruin his life now because he reacted badly. Because he did. First of all, everyone now also wants to judge people who have to do bad things to make money at some point in their life. Like I'm fortunate enough. First of all, I don't have a liminal order. I never would get a liminal order membership. I don't like, and I think talking about alpha male is a bizarre thing in the first place. I think everyone in the chat calling me a cuck, I think that's bizarre language to begin with. And if you think it bothers me, maybe that makes me the discreet alpha cuck beta male. This discussion is just meant to demonize people. These are not sins that, in my humble opinion, are serious enough to warrant what's being done. And I think it should be focused on other actual relevant issues and not just internet drama for the sake of it. And that's my
I did see this. Okay, David, I did see this, and this actually is of concern. I don't know the full context of it. There may be more, but the bit I did see, you know, encouraging and saying that women at 15 are in their prime, so it only makes sense that kind of thing, especially if you have a lot of people following you. If you have a lot of people following you, could be encouraging some really awful behavior. I'm going to say on that.
I will valiantly say that I think that Jack Murphy was trying to add a level of nuance in that podcast that came across wrong. rather
that's
than.
fair.
And this is me. I just spent an entire night roasting this guy. There are several things that I think are getting, because there's one thing where he mentions that his fiance is 15 years his junior, and people were like, "Oh, they're talking about a 15-year-old," and it's like, no. He means 15 years younger than him. He was 40 at the time. She's 25. That's what the language of that actual article said, and so there are plenty of people taking things a little too far as to what Jack Murphy said or meant, when there's plenty objectionable with what he actually said, that you don't need to do that. So
can I point out that, I mean, Viva, one can make a comparison to Ghislaine Maxwell in her trial.
Oh, wow. Okay. Here we go.
I'm making a point.
Here we go.
Making a point for thought.
It's a nice callback.
There's a point for thought. Ghislaine Maxwell in her trial, they invested much of their time in trying to convince the jury that she was grooming people. She was picking people who she identified as a good target, and then she was finding ways to isolate them, and then giving them lies and manipulation for the purposes, and then normalizing whatever. That's part of that. The stage 4 is normalizing sexual activity, and then dominion and control. And aside from the normalizing sexual activity, one could make a case that this is exactly what Jack Murphy did with his customers. He targeted people who are basically feeling hopeless and despondent, and he basically fed them lies and manipulation for the purposes of taking financial advantage of them. And that's why when I first started this, I had a similar thought to what you had, Viva, where I was like, you know what? So this guy is not quite as alpha as he's making him out. He's not quite as confident in himself. That's really what it is. When they say alpha, they really are talking about someone who's a confident, secure individual. And it doesn't have to be a man, it can be a woman also. And when I'm talking about someone who's alpha, I'm talking about someone who's confident, secure, and believes himself and optimistic and living a healthy lifestyle. That's when I do use the term, and that's what I'm really referring to. And that he's not nearly as confident and secure as he makes himself out to be. And doesn't have the strength that he holds himself out to be. And I was like, you know what? So just because even the most confident people still have some insecurities. They still have some weaknesses inside of them. So if he screwed up in that moment with Sydney, and he had that moment there, to say that we're going to destroy his life's work, assuming he's actually helping people who are lacking confidence, a lot of men who feel lost, type of men who generally, let's say, go to Jordan Peterson, like that type of thing, and look to him as sort of a father figure. And there are literally millions of men like that today. Millions, more so today than perhaps ever.
I want to push on that real quickly, though, because Quartering brought Jordan Peterson into the conversation, too. And in fairness, Jordan Peterson's not charging people $100 a month to go into an organization.
His content is free.
Excuse me. I don't know what Peterson's speaking fee is.
Okay, but what the point
is... hang on.
No. Let's go. We'll go through that.
That's one way of getting his content, though. I actually have seen him speak in person. I can't remember how much it cost, but it was fairly reasonable. But that's only one way of getting his content, because he's also got his podcast. He's got his book, which you can buy.
Get his book in the library also.
But I mean, there's also how many hours of content on YouTube that was just his lectures from when he was still an acting professor.
Like, there's a lot of stuff. He's not promising a result either, David. He's not promising that he's going to fix you. Right. He's a professional psychiatrist and would not put that out.
You're talking about the quality of somebody's product. If you don't like it, don't buy it.
No.
And Jordan Peterson, by the way, this is exactly what they did with Jordan Peterson when he had his personal issues. What kind of man gets addicted to drugs and then tells people to go make their beds? And to the chat, I'm not triggered, by the way. What I don't like is that this brings out a lot of ugliness in people who should be not displaying this ugliness. So he might be a fraud. He might be a liar. Do I think, as Joe's analogy goes, he's grooming a la Maxwell? If he is, I promise you I will change my opinion. Until he is grooming in the sense of targeting a product towards people, not my demographic, not something I would do, people who he thinks need the guidance that he thinks he offers. Is it Bernie Madoff? I don't know. If it's a pyramid scheme, I'll correct myself again. But if it's more along the lines of a religious person giving a spiritual talk who turns out to not live a moral life, that's one thing. And for the amount of people I know who have had affairs, and it's not confession through projection people, it's just having lived a life of law. There are different levels of immoral behavior that I will judge differently. engaging in certain behavior that is self-destructive but not destructive to others, less my business. If I find out a religious speaker is having sex with someone else, doing all sorts of bad things while preaching morality, fine. If I find out they're breaking the law, much different situation. So
Agreed.
all of this to say, this is, people say it's a quiet week in law.
Five lawyers, stories. 5 lawyers. I'm not a lawyer.
I want to.
I just associate
By the way,
with them, but I'm not a lawyer.
Can I mention one thing?
I just want to clarify because it's sort of.
Go ahead, Nate. Hold on, Joe.
Eric Huntley took the wrong thing. Eric cut me off before and basically implied that I was comparing Peterson.
No, I said the quartering did. I said the quartering did.
But I want to be clear here. I think they're opposite people. I think even though Peterson has his personal flaws with his health or whatever issues he has, I think that they're the exact opposite. I think that Peterson actually helps people, and that he does not demand a fee to see any of his insight on things. You can see practically almost everything he talks about for virtually nothing, and he is genuinely, I believe, helping people. And I am to think that he's brilliant, Peterson. And I think that he's basically trying to target the same demographic, but take advantage of them. That was my point in comparison.
And I'll add this too, just really quick. I'll add this point too. I mean, who's to say that Jack Murphy won't learn from this and then actually turn it into something that is a lesson for people to learn from, and then continue on with his path and whatever he's doing. Like, that's also a possibility, and because you could also look at Jordan Peterson with whether it was addiction or if it was like the what's the different version where it's like it's just a substance
there was
dependency. Yes. Yeah, like a substance dependency. Those are technically different, but
yeah, he was on benzos. Anybody who wants to know, he was on benzos, which is like a Valium when he was doing the touring, and that is a nightmare to get off. My partner on my other show, America's Untold Stories, Mark Robert, runs rehab clinics or has run rehab clinics, and he'll be the first to say that benzos are the devil. They're super, super difficult to get off of, and they're often prescribed as a psychotropic drug, to help somebody with stress or anxiety or things like that.
So you could say that, despite the fact that he went through that, coming out of that, you can still look at that as, well, okay, he managed to bring himself out of that. That's still admirable. There's still a possibility that could happen for Jack here. I'm just, looking at this a little bit optimistically. Okay, Nate.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to say this. I think everybody didn't caught up on the tu quoque fallacy, right? He's a hypocrite, and yes, even though I can say smoking is bad, but I can still smoke, right? That's still true. So even though I do agree with Viva in that sense that he can be giving a good message doesn't mean that he has to be following the message. But I think we also have to be consistent if we're going to go down that path where we're focusing in on the message. But if I can, I did want to ask the panel a question about another famous lawyer who seems to have gotten into trouble. Did anybody catch Dershowitz's take on the Maxwell trial on the BBC? Because when I watched it, it was kind of surprising because he started attacking one of the alleged the woman who attacked him, who
Virginia Guffey?
Virginia Guffey. Yeah.
Because the government didn't use her as one of the witnesses, so he started attacking her, and that's when the BBC came out and says, well, we didn't need to have him on because he's too. But what do you guys think about that? Because now it's coming on.
She didn't testify.
She didn't testify.
But he's saying that she didn't testify because she's this big. In other words, he's just saying, the reason why she didn't testify is because she's a big liar, and that absolves him of any wrongdoing. And also,
so he's being opportunistic.
In England. The prince in
Prince
Andrew. Prince Andrew's also absolved because that's what he's going around saying now, which I think is
Dershowitz should not be talking about this publicly because he has a vested interest in this because he's being sued by one of them, and so nothing he says on the subject.
Virginia Roberts.
He's being sued by Virginia Roberts, who. So
and that's coming up next month, I think.
The chat is going to say yes. He went to Epstein's Island when he was on my show. I did grill. I think I sufficiently grilled him on that. I think you can either buy or not buy his explanation. He was there once in the 90s before all of this was known, never went back. The massage in which he kept his underwear on was not on Epstein's Island. It was in Florida at that place where they apparently give lots of massages. Again, things you will never dig up in my past, and I will see these things with a stink eye. But for anybody who watched that stream, he answered those questions. Whether or not you believe him is up to you. But
and the chat put him through the coals too.
Oh my
I
God.
was a moderator, and they were very clear what they thought of Dershowitz.
And I brought the chats up. It was not a question of going easy on Dersh, because you can, if you want to be true and honest, you can invite someone on and then ignore the hard questions. I think if Jack Murphy has learned anything, he's learned that you cannot bring someone on and then not bring up super chats just to save the face of the person you're interviewing, because then it's a disingenuous discourse.
Mm-hmm.
I think I grilled Dershowitz. You can believe or not believe his answer and then interpret it the way you want, but he shouldn't be giving any public commentary on this. He has a vested interest. He's an implicated party in some sense, and so he should be quiet, because whatever he says is going to be spun in various ways.
And that's the reason why the BBC, has not had to put out this statement, because they had him on as legal commentary about the verdict, and obviously now they had to come back and say, well, he's really not an impartial person to look at this, So
why didn't they think about that beforehand?
Why didn't he think of that? Why didn't he think of that? Like, discretion is the better part of valor. Why didn't he think about that?
Conflict of interest.
Because a man who represents himself has a fool for a client. So I mean, even if you're a lawyer, you can also make these stupid mistakes by going off and speaking, when you shouldn't be.
Should I tell you another Dershowitz mistake?
It shows you who understands what that means.
I'm just stuck here.
I didn't see what the comment was.
We were talking about the BBC. He's saying Jack Murphy loves the BBC, British Broadcasting Channel. Absolutely,
British Broadcasting Channel.
Yes,
exactly what
that's
that
correct.
I'm still sitting here going. He kept his underwear on during a massage. This is that alpha beta stuff that we were talking about right there. No, you gotta go.
Chat,
underwear off.
Alpha or beta. I don't like massages from anybody. Is that alpha or beta? So I'm never gonna have to.
I'm talking about
my underwear off. Nobody touches my body.
I'm talking about Dershowitz, Viva.
I know you're talking about Dershowitz. I'm just saying as an anecdote.
You and Dershowitz were having a massage?
Look,
keep your underwear on,
think
right?
Massages are weird. I think anybody who's not your spouse touching your body is weird.
What if you pay for it?
I also I hate people touching my body.
Well, you have to pay for it. Yeah,
well, that means you hate spa. I go to a spa on a cruise ship and you get a massage.
I loathe spas.
Oh man, they're great.
I love them.
I will sit there all day.
But yeah, no, the Dersh and his interview was it came off badly. And it came off as though he was too heavily invested in the subject matter, which is a problem.
He essentially said because the government didn't call this woman Virginia, that means she's a liar, and that means she was lying about me too, and that's not what it meant.
That's a lie. That's just not true.
Yeah, he's trying to spin it.
Keep in mind that Dersh is New York, and Mark, every time I'm talking to him, he'd be like, "Oh, well, that's just a New York thing to do." He's not going to just say no, or he's going to come back hard. And he says, a lot like Trump. Trump never lets anything go. He always comes back super, super hard at whomever. And some could say that's what Dersh is doing. I don't know if it's smart or not, but.
I'll tell you that arguably Dershowitz, who was the one who negotiated the non-prosecution agreement for Epstein back in 2008, that arguably, assuming he had all the leverage that he seemed to have because he got the deal of a lifetime, and a deal that was so ridiculously favorable to his client, and not just his client, but even potential co-conspirators, which is something that's relatively unheard of, to get immunity for potential co-conspirators when you're being prosecuted for the crimes that he was facing back in 2008. But arguably, assuming that he had that leverage, because like I said, he pretty much got whatever he wanted in that deal. What if he really had that leverage? Dershowitz screwed up, because the reason this case, the Maxwell case, came forward despite a motion to dismiss from the defense that was arguing that it needs to be dismissed because the non-prosecution agreement gives immunity to any co-conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein, and it should be granting immunity to Ghislaine Maxwell. And what Judge Nathan pointed out is that it only applies for the periods of 2001 to 2007, and whatever applies for Epstein, that's the extent of the immunity for the co-conspirators. And B, and this is where I think Dershowitz may have screwed up, B, that unless a non-prosecution agreement specifically references the United States being able to prosecute in all jurisdictions, The natural fallback, the default position of a non-prosecution agreement is that it's limited exclusively to the jurisdiction that is issuing the non-prosecution agreement, which means that only the Southern District of Florida, where the Palm Beach residence is located, they're the only agency which is limited in where they can prosecute. They could prosecute Epstein or any of his co-conspirators, but that if you want to have a global non-prosecution agreement through all jurisdictions, you must specifically state it in the non-prosecution agreement, which is why I'm saying if Dershowitz genuinely had the leverage that he seems to have had, one would think that a few extra words in there that Alex Acosta could have signed off on, saying that Epstein can't be prosecuted in the Southern District of Florida or anywhere else, that Alex Acosta would have had the power to actually grant that level of immunity, but Dershowitz never called for it, which is why now, in theory, Epstein could have been brought up to the Southern District of New York. In fact, he was being brought to the Southern District of New York, and so too all these co-conspirators, and that's really it's really a little bit of malpractice in my estimation, assuming he had that leverage. I don't know that he had if he didn't have the leverage, if he tried getting and they said we're not going to give you that, maybe he couldn't get it. But I'm saying is if he had that leverage, that was a real screw up on Dershowitz's part, because he exposed his clients by not realizing that the default position is that other jurisdictions are still allowed to prosecute.
Well, Joe, I'm going to disagree with you on one point. I don't think it's malpractice because his client got the best deal possible. That agreement really was for everyone else, right? The Maxwells and stuff like that. So I think you got the best, and you started off this by saying that he got this amazingly sweetheart deal.
Yeah.
So if we're talking about some icing on the cake, then I don't think you got malpractice.
It's not icing on the cake.
He didn't get everything. He kind of got, He what did he get? He get like almost no time. And
he got 18 months, which ended up serving 14 months, and not just 18 months, but that he was during that 14 months, he literally was allowed to leave prison, go work in an office building that he built specifically to serve his purposes during the time that he's in prison, like nearby, and then sleep in the cell at night. That is an insane
it was the best deal.
There are some people who would love that deal, right?
Yeah, no.
Well, and not only that,
Jim Potter would love that deal.
When I say malpractice, what I'm saying is he missed something that I would have thought he would not have missed. Meaning he should have realized that there's a default here, and so malpractice is too strong a term. I'm talking to a bunch of attorneys here, so it's too strong a term. It's not malpractice because, like I said, he got the deal of a century. I'm just saying this is something I would have expected. Alan Dershowitz, who's widely considered to be the sage of criminal defense, you would think that that's not something he would have missed on. So that's what I'm really pointing out here.
By the way, in that deal too, keep this in mind that during the day when he was out of prison, he got to continue living his own peccadillos all day long, and then just go to the cell at night. I mean, it was about as good as you can get.
And by the way, Michael, you're correct. Michael's correct. It probably was the leverage of the lease. I don't think it was Dershowitz. I think that there had to be something there that, basically Alex Acosta felt like his own life or children's lives were in jeopardy, or when I say that, or his career was in jeopardy and that he's protected from on high by powers, either that Epstein had blackmail leverage over them, or they wanted to use his material, the stuff that he recorded, for their own blackmail purposes. That's another thing that people have, or he's CIA. There's like a million different theories as to how he got that deal. I do not believe it was Dershowitz's brilliance that got him to that level deal, because that no one is feared that much.
Nick, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I was just going to, Joe, please, I know you're from New York, but you've got to pronounce her name right. It's Ghislaine.
I say Ghislaine because that's what her defense counsel called her.
But
I will tell you this.
Look, I speak French.
I know.
It's Ghislaine.
It's Ghislaine. Hold on. I'm gonna show some total ignorance here. I've seen people talk about this. I have never looked it up as of yet.
I don't know what this
is.
What is
adrenochrome blood? What is
the
rumor?
Nick, help us out. What is this? What is this super chat? Explain it to us.
I don't know this one. Of it. They talk about these, the can we say Satan worshippers? They talk about Satan worshippers drinking adrenochrome. I don't know what it is, but I know what the joke is in the context in which it's used. But
I don't.
I think it's the gland.
I think this is right up your alley, Viva. Explain to us the joke.
Oh, I have no idea. I just know that they say that what's his face there, the Podesta brothers, they need their adrenochrome blood to rejuvenate and to get young, but I never understood it.
Is this like young like literally
Oh,
young
God.
blood or something?
Never mind.
Not
It's
transfusions or
QAnon.
something.
Okay,
QAnon.
someone says
Okay.
we're headed towards a part that you may not want to talk about on YouTube.
Oh, you know what? I haven't got all you guys' takes on
Oh.
the juror, the juror from Potter. I wanted to ask, especially you,
Yeah.
Viva, and Joe. I kind of saw Nick's take, but what do you guys think? The juror comes out
I'll
and
show on the
essentially
screen real quickly.
admits that they convicted her on negligence.
Yeah.
Well, let's hypothetically, I don't have any experience with this meaningful, but hypothetically, a juror comes out afterwards and says something that basically undermines the verdict. That has no legal impact in terms of appealability or
Rule
relevance
606. Yeah, you can't bring it up. It's actually, you can't even bring it before the court unless you can show that they were bribed or something like that, or they made a mistake.
Are you
FRE
sure?
606.
I wonder if you could on appeal, right?
Yeah.
You appeal the closing argument of Matthew Frank. Because he's the guy who misstated the law on recklessness to the jury. They objected to it. Judge says, I'll allow it. And so so now when they go to appeal,
Jury confusion, maybe?
Can't
If
they
it's
just-
bad directions
Yes.
can cause a jury
they
to pick
can-
wrong?
they can make the argument on bad things, and then shouldn't they be able to cite to the publication and say, and this seems to have had real impact as we saw in here, because this isn't new evidence before the trial court, but I think they can cite, you can cite to an outside source on the
Here's the rule. I'm sharing it right now. The rule, it's Rule 606 in the federal rules, which is the same. They've
right.
brought it into
It'll be same
Minnesota.
rules of evidence.
Yeah, so here it is. It's competency as a juror. If during an inquiry into the validity of the verdict or indictment, prohibited testimony. So in other words, they said you can't use it to go into why they came up to the verdict or anything like that, even if it's improper. But there are these exceptions, and the three exceptions are extraneously prejudicial information was improperly brought to the jury's attention, outside influences was improperly brought to bear on any juror, and a mistake was made in entering the verdict form. That's it. So if it's not one of those three things, you can't even ask for a juror to submit an affidavit or anything. It's done. They don't want, you can't even get that in front of the tribunal.
Damn.
That's terrible.
Which is kind of nuts if you think about it.
So
Yeah, I mean,
It's
FRE
pretty
Rule 606.
pretty clear from that interview that they actually misunderstood the law.
Yeah.
And you can link that very directly to the actual closing argument.
Yep.
Yeah.
Was it a problem with the jury? It's a problem with the jury instructions in addition to the closing argument, not just closing arguments.
No, mostly the closing argument, because the jury instructions. I mean, the jurors showed that they demonstrated aptly why this whole system is kind of interesting, because the language that the jury was hung up on was this idea of conscious or intentional. And one person's like, well, it wasn't conscious, and then the other person says, but it says or intentional, and they're like, oh yeah, you're right, now she's guilty. And I'm not joking, that was actually how the discussion went down. And it's like conscious and intentional are two parts of the same thing, they're not separate things.
Right.
Well, that's where the Oxford comma might lead to well, there was no Oxford comma.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's
It should have had slash instead of the or.
But
Yeah,
I mean,
but essentially,
oh, go ahead, Nate.
no, it's exactly what Nick was saying earlier. The right now it's weird because we know that this verdict was unjust, right? Because they convicted her under the wrong legal standard, and we know this from a juror. But now the rules don't allow the juror, so I think you're right. I think they have to go in there, and I don't know how you're going to get in front of the judge of the tribunal, but you're going to make those arguments that hey, it was under the wrong standard. But not being able to use this, it seems to be an injustice for itself. I don't know how you fix this, because you want the jurors to have that anonymity and that freedom to say whatever they want, but then you when you have something like this, when you know someone's been convicted wrongfully, it's just like, what do you do? So can we make an exception for that? I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, what's weird about the rule, if you think about it, is like they literally can say if they didn't understand the instructions at all and just did whatever it is they thought they're supposed to do, and that doesn't matter. You can't overturn that according to Rule 606. That's a frightening rule. It really
you can
is.
overturn it, but you can't use that juror saying that to overturn it.
Well, I think what you do is you just build out a very robust argument about that jury instruction, or not the closing argument. You grab the transcript and you pull up that section, say this is where the prosecution misstated the law. We objected to it. The judge allowed a misstatement of the law in closing argument during rebuttal, a rebuttal which was also overbroad and went beyond the scope of the closing argument of the defense, which we also objected to. And because of this, it amounted to prejudice, which ended up with our client being guilty. And you just trust that the appellate courts actually read the juror thing, because they probably have, and they probably read it. There was a super chat, Eric. If we could go back, and it's a relevant legal question to the Jack Murphy thing, which has nothing to do with the validity of Jack Murphy's program or his personal character or anything, but it was great.
The video game. Yeah.
Right. So Jack Murphy's likeness has been added to a video game called Cuck Simulator. And to be very clear, I am a Patreon supporter of Team Sneed, who has developed the game. I've played the game on stream back when you could. You can't anymore. On Twitch, it's been banned from Twitch, but it's a comedic game. But he added Jack Murphy to the game, so people are asking, can Jack Murphy successfully sue based on
parody, isn't it?
Yeah. So unauthorized use of likeness, or does it fall under fair use? First of all, it's not fair use because you don't have a copyright interest in your own face or any inherent characteristic about you. You might, if you develop some particular look, you might be able to develop a copyright interest, but what you have is a right of publicity. Mm-hmm. It's the right of publicity, and that right of publicity means that you can't use my face to endorse a product without my consent. And there's the Christian Dior case is one of the landmark cases on this in New York. But the long story short is, you can't endorse a product. You can't represent that someone supports it, but you can use a likeness in a comedic way or in a critical way or a commentary sort of way, similar to a fair use argument, but it's not exactly fair use. So I was
going to say the game itself isn't editorial technically, right? It is mocking him, or it's a parody of him. Right.
So I hope that answers the question. And if anybody wants to correct any part of that, please do. But I'm not an expert, but that's my understanding from covering cases on that sort of issue.
I think that sounds pretty much correct. I want to look back into that particular area of law because it's been a minute since I last did, but it does remind me of, I remember in law school reading there was I think it was Samsung with a Vanna White v. Samsung. Vanna White, she sued Samsung because they used a robot version of her, standing in front of on a billboard or something. It's a robot version of her, kind of presenting Samsung something or other. Yeah. And so she sued for right of publicity, and I think that they said that it wasn't actually her, and no reasonable person thought. I've got to look back at the opinion though. I'm not exactly sure how it came out, but I think that they said that ultimately that Samsung won because they were able to use her as kind of a more of a First Amendment statement than her actual publicity, so that it wasn't viewed as an endorsement by her or by Wheel of Fortune.
Yeah, the Christian Dior case, I think was it Jackie Kennedy?
Oh, Onassis at the time.
Yeah. That's it. It's Dior versus Onassis or whatever, or Onassis v Dior, and they used a picture of her saying that she used Christian Dior, perfume or whatever, and they lost because.
And they should. That seems like you're faking somebody's endorsement, and especially. What is it? If Michael Jackson, I think he was doing Pepsi commercials, right? If somebody used his image on Coke, that would be a gigantic issue.
Right. Yes. Yeah. That was
I always wonder this. When I go like this, can you see my jaw clenching?
Yes.
Clearly.
A little bit. Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like your elf ears wiggling.
You look way more alpha. You look way more alpha like that.
I have a habit of grinding my teeth, but you could. I didn't know if it's visible via the quality on this camera. That's how good this Mac built-in camera is. someone brought up Peter Nygard was arrested last year. I had to refresh my memory on that. That's a year-old story as far as
I don't even know who he is.
Who is Peter Nygard?
Peter Nygard. Well,
no idea.
we won't talk about it. He's a very, very, very bad man if the accusations are true, which, the Peter
Was he
Nygard
like a Jimmy-
arrested faces.
Is he like a Jimmy Savile?
No, I think this is
Freiheit
real
Free.
bad
Frozen
stuff.
in time.
Yeah, his camera he's bragging about.
Here we go.
Arrested
I
faces
see.
what?
Yeah,
Exorcism
racketeering, all the bad stuff.
Canadian fashion mogul arrested Monday night. This is from last year, so I don't know if that message was delayed a year, but oh yeah. By the way, if we want to talk about what's going on in Canada,
Sure, why not?
Everyone wants
David's
to
going to
talk
have
about
a fun New
Canada.
Year's Eve. Tell us about your party, David. How many people are coming over?
Is it New
What's going to
Year's?
happen?
Is it New Year's in Canada, or are they off by a day on that also?
my real dilemma is whether or not I go. I have an urge to protest, but there's reasons why I would be concerned about getting arrested. But they've effective 5:00 this afternoon, and the announcement was made yesterday. Restaurants are shut down. No indoor gatherings beyond your family bubble. School is postponed until January 17. Online until then. There was a fourth one that I can't remember. It's what was it? I can't remember. But no private indoor gatherings, and New Year's is canceled. And one comment that I see doesn't bother me. It's just very easy for people who are behind the anonymity of their computer tapping away and saying, "What are you going to do about it?" I never know if people mean that in a violence type way, which is not my thing, and call me whatever names you want. Above and beyond having run for federal,
what are you going to do? Yeah, it could be that.
No. It's like, oh, that's funny. I don't read it that way. I read it, what are you going to do about it? As in, complaining about it, is one thing. But I'll remind people, I've run for federal office, and now the question is,
oh no, Canada's cutting him off.
Canada's enforcing social distancing on his internet.
Trudeau's holding his internet.
Okay, here I'll put my phone. I'm tethering off my phone, so I'll put it closer to the computer. So that's it. That's what we're doing tonight. And the question is, do I go out and?
We heard nothing that you said.
Yeah, what are you doing tonight?
Said,
go back.
That's what we're doing tonight.
Other than dancing the robot.
Put my phone. Am I smooth now?
Not yet.
Let it you're getting better.
Okay, so I put the phone.
We can almost see you clenching your jaw.
Yeah, clench.
What am I going to do tonight? I'm either going to remain bitter indoors, or I don't think I can go out and do what I want to do because I have responsibilities.
In case anyone's wondering, I'm also clenching, just not my jaw.
Well, you know what? Joe's not.
You're not wondering.
Joe, how are you celebrating New Year's on the Sabbath or Sabbath?
Oh, I'm gonna my celebrations tonight will be being asleep by 8:30 and then sleeping till like 8 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, 12 hours of sleep is how I celebrate Friday night to Saturday. It is the most amazing thing. I don't know how you guys function, because that is when I catch up on all my sleep.
Okay. Happy New Year's to Joe.
Yeah.
I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah.
So Alita, what are you doing for New Year's this year?
Well, I am hanging out with my folks since I still have the Rona. And they're just cleared of it now. So it's safe for me to hang out with them, for anybody wondering. I'm not passing it to them. In fact, I may have gotten it from them. Who knows? It's everywhere right now, right? So but yeah, just hanging out with my folks, a little bit of extra quality time with them, which is actually kind of nice, because otherwise I'm on the other side of the world and don't get to really spend too much time with them, sort of like one-on-one too often. So
how does it feel being in closer time zones to reality?
It's to reality.
I mean, we're in the right time zone.
Of course,
Joe, David, and me, we're all in the right time zone. Nick's a little off, and
obviously
more off, but
yeah, no, it's kind of nice actually. It's nice not having to be up late to live stream, in the middle of the day here. So, but yeah, it is pretty good. But I am kind of excited to get back to my like usual routine, back home, so I can just get into a rhythm again. it feels a little too loosey goosey.
How are your runs going, by the way? Are we up to the 25K or the 30K yet?
I need to get back into running as well, so that I can get on all of those things again. Obviously, not being able to leave the house doesn't help my ability to run longer distances. So, yeah. Yep.
You guys know about that, right? She's made a commitment to every 5K to run a matching.
She's up to 40. She's up to 40 kilometers right now. A marathon a day keeps your hip doctor.
I've got it. No, I know, and I know I'm behind on my runs. I've got to start making up. I need to get going on my plan for knocking those out.
Brian Evans said, "Viva, smoke a joint and kick back." People, you don't want to see Viva after that kick back. Viva doesn't know how to kick back, but
so do you want me to, since there's a lull here, do you want me to bore you all with an explanation as to what happened with that jury on Maxwell? Or
I thought you did that already.
Just circle back, Joe.
Sure, Joe.
We don't have to. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help you. I'm trying to help your show, Eric. You know what? Fine.
Welcome to our guest, Joe Pisacki, press secretary of the Eric Hunley Show. We're going to circle back to that. Thank you.
Oh God. Well, what other case? Are all the cases done for the year, or what's hanging out there?
It's 12/31.
Well, Holmes,
dude.
was there a verdict
done for the year?
Was there a verdict in Elizabeth Holmes?
No, not yet. No, they're taking a break for New Year's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that one's coming. I'm looking forward to apparently
Don Lemon.
I've got to. Well,
it's
going to be it's going to be federal though. There's not going to be.
That's in New York Southern District, right? I can cover that one, right?
Same thing with
my whole life in the New York Southern District of New York. I'm
Cardi B
covering these cases.
Cardi
Don
B.
Lemon.
Also, Gretchen Whitmer.
That trial's coming up in March, but we'll see if the motion for, I can't think of a word that has a "wh" in it. We'll see if the motion to dismiss the indictment is granted.
I don't think it will be.
It's the same. They're asking the same judge who sentenced Ty Garbin. I mean, yeah, he'll dismiss the indictment after sentencing a guy to 6 years in jail.
Yeah, I think just the standard for a motion to dismiss, it doesn't quite meet it. But I do think that what they laid out in that motion to dismiss is fairly is fairly strong for their ultimate case that's going to be moving forward.
Is it entrapment? Is that what they're going with?
Yeah,
on that one. And they should. They absolutely should.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds pretty. Yeah, I mean, and their arguments are pretty good, because they're like, hey, even in Jacobson, even if we were to go with the dissent would even be with us on this particular case in these facts. Like, here's what O'Connor said, and here's what what happened here. She would be with us on this case. I think it was a pretty well written argument, and I think that although the motion to dismiss is probably going to be overruled, just because there are I think facts that are gray enough that the court would not want to just dismiss this outright. I think that when it does ultimately move forward, I think they do have a pretty strong case.
Yeah, probable cause for a prosecution is a really, really low bar. Real quick plug though. I had a degenerate stream last night, but yesterday during the day, if you like entrapment, I interviewed Earl Grey, the attorney.
He entrapped him
for Kim Potter. Yes. And it's about an hour and 20 minutes of the stream. And Earl was delightful. And he talked about several entrapment cases that he's personally won. And they're fascinating stories. So if you like stories like Whitmer and entrapment, go ahead and check him out. Learn about the $500 hitman who takes payments on installments and all that stuff.
Installments. Oh, wow. Well, technically, aren't all hitmen on installments? You pay so much ahead and then so much when complete.
It was $500 down. This is all a setup, right? It was all entrapment by a federal informant. But yeah, he's like, oh yeah, $500 down, it'll be fine, because the guy didn't have any money, so they had to try and get this thing to stick.
I'll get to Easy Mac's question in a second, but someone had pulled up one of the FBI agents was arrested, yes, but on nothing related to the case itself. On spousal
that was
abuse.
The guy who had
it was like a domestic abuse charge,
he went to a
right?
swingers party, and he went to a swingers party and saw things that cannot be unseen, and then was arrested.
He was at Jack Murphy's party?
It's called
sorry.
grievous bodily
No,
harm.
he wasn't there,
not
but his
causing
wife
death.
was.
So that FBI agent, the one who pleaded guilty was Ty Garbin, who turned star witness for the prosecution, was going to attest to the fact that he had a hand in making all this happen, thought he was going to get a sweetheart deal, 75 months in jail. I just wonder, like, Alita, Joe, Nick, if you know the answer, you're asking the same judge who sentenced somebody to dismiss the indictment. Can you not ask for another judge to adjudicate on this particular motion? I think he's got a vested interest in not granting the motion to dismiss because he's already sentenced somebody.
Yeah, but I don't think that you sentenced someone before is grounds for recusal on the issue. I mean, it probably should be if you think about it, but I don't think it actually comes up as one of the recusal factors that you can invoke because you remember it's a judge and it's other judges determining whether this judge is qualified to judge on something, and so they're always going to default to no he can separate himself out between these two cases, which to me is ludicrous, but that's the system.
And the FBI agent, without mentioning it, whatever, you can find his name if you want, but he was beat his wife and then was fired. Had his, he was the one at the center of the whole setup, or the foiling of the plot. So you can ask yourself as to what his overall moral scale was. There was another issue that was kind of amazing. Oh yeah, and then one of the head informants, who's at the heart of this entire foiling of the plan as well, arrested for possession of a sniper rifle. And I had a lot of people in the chat asking, how do you get arrested for having a sniper rifle? I think he was a convicted felon and was not allowed to possess a firearm, but this was the chief FBI informant. So my goodness, if it doesn't sound like they're a bunch of entrapping criminals at the FBI with their informants, I don't know what more would make that evidence for anybody to see.
Wow, crazy. By the way, I'm lazy on the grift here. So folks, I see a lot of people are subscribing. Thank you so much.
I don't even know what
maybe we can get to 5K.
What's this called? Laid back news?
Yep.
Laid back news. Were you explaining that this is where we're going to be from now on?
Yes, all the panels are going to be here, which kind of takes it a little off my name, more to a generalized concept. I thought about it, and everything here is kind of current event oriented, much like a news channel. So the show that was News with Booze will also be on this channel. Panels will be on this channel. And most people, I think, enjoy both of those, and it won't pull away from other stuff. So I hope everybody does consider subscribing. I want to give a huge shout out.
Did you rename this channel? Because I'm already subscribed and I never heard of this laid back news.
He renamed it.
Yes, I'll explain it again for Joe, who was late. America's Untold Stories was created on this channel where we are speaking right now. It was taken out after 3 weeks due to a copyright troll. So instead of waiting the month it took to get the channel back through all the counterclaims, I just started again, America's Untold Stories, and I had a channel with some subs on it already. And I decided, well, people like the separation of content with America's Untold Stories, and Eric Hunley, I think they will also enjoy the panels and the news being separated, just for clarity for everybody. If somebody likes everything I do, they can subscribe to everything. If they only like some of it, cool. I really appreciate anyone and everyone. And I want to shout out James Esparza, also known as Tape Damage in my locals community, who did yeoman's work and the logo, the intro that people saw. I mean, he's done so much cool work. He's like
Eric, why aren't you subscribed to all of us?
Yeah, what are good questions?
Because this is I am on incognito mode.
It's a joke.
Okay.
I get it. Never mind. It doesn't even matter.
Because I'm not subscribed to myself either. See, it's incognito. Because somebody yelled at me for showing my Twitter DMs at some point. Who is that guy?
I think it was all of us.
And then Eric says, "Well, it was only up for a split second, so no big deal." As if there's not freeze frame. Let me just an easy max question about Canada. I don't like giving legal advice because I don't know what the police can do anymore, because under the Quarantine Act, they can do pretty much whatever they want, including lock you up in quarantine hotels. But they can issue these fines. If you go out and violate public health orders, they'll give you a fine of $1,000 to $6,000, and you can contest them. Good luck with that. From what I've understood, even that guy out in Alberta who allegedly brought down the coronavirus COVID-19 thing, still paid his fine, was found guilty. So good luck. I mean, it's just a question of how much is it worth and what are you going to accomplish by getting a ticket or getting arrested or even worse. So I don't know what you can do. We do not have freedom in Canada, says Rib Sauce, and I tend to agree with that.
Okay, somebody in the chat was defending Joe. Joe, what part of the jury did we miss? And now I'm hearing myself.
Yeah, we got an echo. Viva.
It couldn't have started now. For goodness sake, we've been doing this for an hour and 50 minutes.
It did.
Everyone else is on headphones.
It's StreamYard. StreamYard's audio control is. Look, I'm not here to besmirch the good name of StreamYard on your channel, but I'm going to. Their audio controls are garbage. I'm like the top tier subscriber, paid for everything in advance, bought the maximum storage.
Me too, for a year. Yep.
Yeah, StreamYard, get your audio in order. It's embarrassing lately. Give us audio controls that matter.
And let us have levels that we can see everywhere so we can compare. Because your auto leveling is inconsistent.
And give us a monitor option. Give us anything.
If the echo went away, I put myself on mute. So if it didn't go away, it wasn't.
It went away.
It went away.
It was you, Viva. We know.
He hates it because I'm the one that got on him about headphones. He's like, oh,
I don't have headphones in my mother-in-law's studio, but
you look like you're in a murder shack in a 1990s horror movie.
Seriously, and the Einstein hair doesn't help, you know.
Well, you think about it this way. What is it? The Unabomber didn't have windows, so there is a difference.
Yeah,
okay.
No, that looks like the right window for Jack Murphy to peek through. So, yeah, you wanted me to answer your question about the whole jury thing?
Sure.
I don't have to. It's, you know, basically,
Joe's feelings are hurt.
Nah, I'm just saying. I would think some people want to understand how the jury reached this, but if you don't, you don't. I'm only here to offer support and moral, make you feel good about, you know, your little channel here, help it grow. Whatever I can do. Whatever I can do.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you. Yeah, so there were three substantive charges in this case. There was 2224, which is inducing a minor to cross state lines for the purposes of engaging in illegal. All these end with for the purposes of engaging in illegal sexual conduct. Okay, so all three of these substantive charges. So charge number 2, the one she was acquitted on, is inducing a minor to cross state line, convincing her to cross state lines to do that. The charge number 4 was actually transporting her across state lines to do that, not convincing her, but transporting her, like you're driving the car or you're responsible for getting her across state lines, not that you did anything to convince her. And charge number 6 was that you basically send something interstate for the purposes of convincing her to do something. When the judge gave her instructions, now the other odd number charges, 1, 3, and 5, each of them are conspiracy to do the one right below it. So 1 is conspiracy to do 2, 3, 4 is to do 4, etc. So those are 3 different conspiracy charges. Now, when the judge instructed the jury what they're allowed to find guilt for, she was very clear, saying that on charge number 2, convincing to cross state lines, even though you heard from 4 victims, you can only find guilt with respect to the victim known as Jane, and for the years 1994 through 1997. For charge, which is that's convincing. Just basically, did she convince Jane to cross state lines for the purposes of engaging in sex? Then you have the same thing with charge 4. Only with respect to Jane, did she help Jane cross state lines for the purposes of engaging in sex? So on 2, and then 6 was only Carolyn. So on charge number 2, convincing Jane to cross state lines, that she was found not guilty. But charge number 4, where she actually helped transport her across state lines, she was found guilty. This is very confusing to a lot of people, especially since anyone who's really following what was happening during the testimony of the trial, most of the efforts of the prosecution when describing Ghislaine Maxwell's involvement here seem to be about her being a groomer, a Jack Murphy type, who's convincing people who are suspect. She's finding targets and then convincing them to basically join into the scheme and to service Jeffrey Epstein. which really fits into number 2. She's convincing them, not actually driving them across state lines, not flying them across state lines, but she's actually convincing them. That's what we hear from Dr. Rocchio about, everything like that. And they found not guilty on that, but they did say she's responsible for transporting her, as if she was the one flying the plane, which is ridiculous because she wasn't the one flying the plane. So this is why it's so.
How do you know?
Well, there was no testimony about that. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Even though there's testimony she knew how to fly, by the way. There's testimony that she actually would fly planes from time to time, but not that she flew those flights. So that's very confusing how she would be found guilty on that. It's also confusing how she found guilty, number 1, that she's part of conspiracy to convince her, but she wasn't actually the one convincing her. Where the hell do you find guilt on that? And the answer lies as follows. It must be that when it came to the conspiracy charges, even though charge number 2, which was only allowed to be attached to Jane, convincing her to cross state lines, that's only Jane. She said when it comes to conspiracy, you can charge for with respect to any defendants at any time between 1994 and 2004. Not 1994-97, it's 1994 to 2004, and any of the victims who came forward. So even though for the actual crime itself, it's limited to Jane, for conspiracy, it's limited. There's no such limitation. It's open season for anyone. So what must be, the only thing that we can deduce from the jury's finding here is that they didn't convict on charge number 2, so they must not believe that she was really a groomer, that it wasn't proven beyond a reasonable doubt that she was grooming, that she convinced Jane to go out there. But they must have, what makes sense to me is, so how do you get conspiracy? It must be that they believed Carolyn. And when Carolyn, who came in there, and she told her story, which is a very heartfelt, gut-wrenching story, unlike Jane and Kate, who went on to live fabulous careers that most women would kill to have. I mean, one was a soap opera star for 22 years. That was Jane. Kate was an international supermodel, even though she says, I'm not an international supermodel. But when she was raised on Cross, she was asked, were you on the cover magazines in England? Yes. Cover magazines in Italy? Yes. Cover magazines in France? Yes. You're not an international superstar? No, I'm not an international model. Okay. All right. So, stark contrast, Carolyn, the third victim, testified. She comes up and she's in her early 30s, and she looks like she's older than me. I mean, she looks like she's well into her 50s because she's been beaten by life her entire life. From the time she's 4, she was sexually abused by her own grandfather. So, I mean, terrible story her life is, and how she did it all just to have money for more drugs, and just like an awful life, and crying out for justice, saying, and you saw that her memory was very confused about a lot of things. Like she didn't even know what year it was when she was 14. Well, you know,
well, by the way, this is all tragic, and I feel like we're straying on it, but I can't. And I'm not trying to defend her, but I'm just going. Is she being prosecuted because Epstein's not here? Because that really is what it feels like in a lot of ways. Yes, she was involved, everything else, but it does feel like it's a targeting, and a lot of what you're displaying, like her whole life going up to that point, is a horrible, tragic life, but it has very little to do with Ghislaine Maxwell or Ghislaine. Sorry, Nick. Sorry.
Yep,
Ghislaine.
I would tell you, I concur with your assessment there, specifically with respect to Carolyn. With respect to Carolyn, there's very little talk about Ghislaine. When it comes to the other victims, like Kate only meets Jeffrey Epstein because she first meets Maxwell and wants to become like Maxwell. Maxwell was like this very popular, very fashionable, and like a real socialite, successful socialite, tons of money, and she dreamed of basically living the life that Ghislaine had and figured she'd be a perfect role model. And it was only after she came to Ghislaine's house the first time and was looking to tailor her life after Ghislaine that Ghislaine says to her, you know, you really should meet my friend Jeffrey Epstein. He likes helping out girls like you. And she comes back to the house to meet. I mean, that was Ghislaine really. And then Ghislaine is the one who says, you know, Jeffrey, after you met Jeffrey Epstein.
Hold on. We got a brush.
Joe, I got the speaking brush now. The one thing that I found, the big question is convicted of trafficking, which implies a network. It implies clients. And yet we don't have any network or any names of any clients. It's like being convicted of poaching without having found the elephant tusks type thing.
No, you're mistaken trafficking, respectfully.
Right,
when they're talking about trafficking here, There was zero talk, zero testimony about sex involving anyone but Jeffrey Epstein and or Ghislaine Maxwell. There was zero talk.
No, but I'm not missing anything. So the whole point is that this case is predicated on trafficking for Epstein alone, as if anybody believes that. So,
well, and that's the problem. That's why they had so few witnesses, right? And I'll get to the super chat, but my theory is this. Anybody else they bring in, they would, the defense would just say, oh, okay, so Ghislaine and Jeffrey, you were doing this. Who else was there? Oh, we can't call that witness. Who else was there? Oh, we can't call that witness. Who else was there? Because they weren't doing this for each other. They were doing this as part of an operation.
Yes.
She was recruiting people in technically for Jeffrey Epstein, who I will argue had intelligence ties, and a lot of people benefited from this, possibly through honeypot type of situations, by quote blackmail. And it'd be hard to convince me otherwise. I don't have all the facts out there, but he was running an operation.
There's no end. There's no end of conspiracy theories, and I don't know. There's every time I hear these conspiracy theories talk, they just start throwing facts at you, and they'll throw this fact, this fact, this fact, this fact, this fact, this fact, and I don't know whether or not they're true. I don't know if they're false.
Well, I know her father, Robert Maxwell, didn't see an intel agency he didn't like.
Okay,
and he worked with all of them. That's a fact.
Okay,
he did.
I'm accepting that as a
multi-generational thing. She was his favorite daughter. All of this is.
I'm accepting that as fact. I'll counter back at you. My father is a historian. I'm not. I mean, so I'm a lawyer. Okay. I don't expect my kids to be a lawyer. So just because her father has money and has proven ties.
No, she worked with her father.
So I'm asking you. I don't know. I'm not disputing you. I'm just saying, like,
I showed up on the job as a foreman. Then yes, I am in my father's business as a contractor too.
Right.
So just because fathers are different, yeah, that's all true. But she did do work for her father. She represented her father. She was the main hostess for her father. She was the favorite child. That's why the boat was named after her. I mean, they were thick as thieves.
It's arguably true. I can't disprove it. I don't know. It's arguably true.
Can we get to Kevin Hunts's question?
Yes, definitely. Because
the $10 million winning the lottery might explain the super chats, but Kevin.
Yeah. Are you asking me as a lawyer or as a woman? As a lawyer, I'm not going to advise on anything with regards to this kind of stuff. Because we don't give any kind of legal advice. I mean, otherwise, I feel like this question is asking if you want my preference. I'm a little uncomfortable with giving my opinion of my own preference. I think it's kind of a strange thing when people are starting to talk contracts in this area of life. But I think it's a weird. I do agree that it's a weird thing. I'll just say that. How about that?
Yeah, well, I guess it's like this. Am I wrong to interpret if the action is desired, then there's no consent problem. But if it's not desired, then it's now a consent problem. And that can be very difficult for people to navigate because they don't necessarily know. And it's there's issues of take a chance, don't take a chance.
Some people think nice non-answer. I'll give a more direct answer. First of all, if you have to ask the question, you're already in murky waters to begin with. If you're worried about consent, even if someone gives consent and then retracts it the next day, if these are the questions you're asking under the context, legal stuff aside, you're in murky waters. This should not be the question you have to ask yourself. Is this consensual? That would be my answer to the non-legal side of it.
Yeah. And well, although I do sympathize with the whole concern right now because of the whole Me Too movement, et cetera, et cetera. I completely understand why guys would be totally freaked out about this whole zone, right? Because of the sort of things that have happened. But I think, yeah, I mean, I do think that there's something to be said for having good open communication before that point, and understanding where somebody is coming from and what they're comfortable with and what they're not comfortable with. That doesn't necessarily mean that you need to draw up a contract, but you can definitely, I think, feel a person out verbally, metaphorically, so to speak, and get an idea of where they are going. But again, I understand wanting to protect yourself from the
Yeah,
other person and what they're gonna say
Go
later.
the Larry David route on Curb Your Enthusiasm and just videotape both of you and say, I'm
Oh
about
my
to put my
God.
hand
Yes.
on your knee.
No,
Is that okay with you?
I will say that's
I
a very
think that'd be
clear
pleasant.
example of how ridiculous that can be and how ridiculous
Nate.
that would look.
So
if you bring up oh Sweet Mystery, if you can see it, it's a green avatar with an O in it, and it says wrong again, Viva. People can act like they want it and later say they never consented. True, oh sweet mystery, and they can also say I consent in the time and then say they never said it the next day. So my point is, good relationships are better than good contracts. And if you're asking these questions, I too would not want to be dating in this day and age.
Yeah.
But if your issue is I need a good contract, well, you're not necessarily in a good relationship, and they can say yes then, and they can take it back halfway through, and they can take it back the next day. So,
Yeah.
By the way, folks, I gave Viva co-hosting rights to this, and he can never sign in with the right account
I saw
because
what
he
you did
can
on
be
the
pulling
other
up the
account.
chat himself.
So I would respond to that, but no, like I tell you, it's not a question of being wrong. It's actually a question of having some foresight, because you can get consent in the moment, and if that's the nature of your relationship, that consent can be retroactively revoked or even denied having been given in the first place.
Arguably, even if she consents and you're like literally in the middle of full engagement there, and you're just about to finish, and she withdraws her consent, says "Get off me," and you continue, arguably that too would be an assault. And
yes, that is technically.
The,
but I don't like the whole after everything's completed. There are some who say, "Oh, I didn't like it, or I wasn't happy with it." You know, regret does not equal that.
Yeah,
Get married
it's like
young.
the whole Aziz Ansari situation.
Yes,
You know, like
that's a good
that's a
one.
very, in my opinion, a very different situation than say Harvey Weinstein. And I know I have some girlfriends who feel very, very differently about that. They are you know, maybe a bit more progressive than me. Much more progressive than me. I'm not progressive. But I you know, so I completely empathize with that concern, because you can have a situation that you think that you understand things one way, the other person thinks that they understand things a different way, and they're like, why aren't you reading me the way that I think I should be read?
Who's
And
Brittany Venti?
I have no idea.
she's in the chat.
hey, Brittany.
I don't know.
She was on Nick's yesterday, trying to become a part of the Seminole Order on Nick's show.
Okay. I'm just not familiar. I thought she was a YouTuber or something.
She's a YouTuber. She has got 150,000 subs.
Well, hell of a YouTuber. Yeah, come on. I mean, I'm happy to meet her.
Nate made a joke, and now he's kind of walking back on the joke, but I'm gonna go with it anyway. Contracts for sexual activity are unenforceable in their entirety by the court. They cannot say that there was consent because it was signed in a contract. That's not how that works. They can't enforce anything with regards to sexual activity. So the way people have gotten around that is contracts for all sorts of other things. NDAs is one that, unless you're Donald Trump, NDAs can be very effective on some of this stuff. And actually he ended up winning against Stormy Daniels, her lawsuit, but that wasn't related to the NDA. The NDA, I think, got pierced harder than Stormy Daniels. But that being said, the main thing is you cannot contract for this. That will not save you in any way. The only advice I've ever seen that's even close to practical, and it's degenerate advice from a very degenerate friend of mine named Drexel, is allegedly he has a female friend present to film the encounter. So there you go. Because now he has a witness to the consent, and he has video evidence of the ongoing nature of the consent. So,
and it sounds like he might have some profit too. Who knows? How far is he going to take it?
Who owns the copyright in that video? Nick, who owns the copyright in that video?
The person filming.
No.
I don't know that they've made out a work product.
I don't know. I was going to say it's a work product.
It's not automatically work product. You would have to figure that out in contract, and that can be enforceable. So
can I ask you guys, Nick, you were referencing other cases that are coming up. Are any of you aware of a place that we could actually find someone that just congregates and puts together a list of upcoming court cases of note, where I can just be like, because I want to know when does the Avenatti case start? When does the Guthrie versus Prince Andrew case start? I want to know when these cases are starting so I could try to schedule myself. Or the Don Lemon case, I don't know what day that's starting. They're all supposedly starting. I'm not sure about Avenatti, but they're starting in January. I kind of want to be there. I want to go down to Southern District of New York and start covering these cases.
Well, I've got an inside person for the Don Lemon trial, Joe, so we can talk later. Barnes is representing Heinz, so he's
oh, he is?
Yeah.
Yes. So
that's one where I'll be following that, because that's an interesting file to trial to follow. If you see an orange avatar, don't know what's up with it. C. Agnes says Viva clearly hasn't had to date in the current environment. I have not had to date since 1999, so I would not.
Not in this millennium, you guys.
Not in this millennium, people. But I would not want to have to date in this environment, no question. Now, before I sign off, I've got. If you guys thought this was creepy enough as it was, this is my mother-in-law's studio where she does artwork, and nothing is more haunting and frightening than looking over your shoulder and seeing a portrait of your mother in your mother-in-law's studio. This is my mother. She doesn't actually look like this so much, but this is a portrait that my mother-in-law.
You're saying it's a crappy drawing by your mother-in-law.
Oh,
it's very rude.
Viva. Don't denigrate her skills.
What are you putting down your mother-in-law?
My mother is more beautiful than any painting can possibly get. But
okay, there you go.
There's a painting. She does this rose mailing stuff, and she does portraits as well. So
nice.
People, I don't want to.
Are you grifting for her?
No.
Or where's the link to her website?
Is she selling NFTs yet?
At one point in time, I did build out. We put out a website. It was called rosemailingart.com, I think. Anyhow, no, she's so exclusive. She only paints for family and friends.
All right, well, we'll wrap it up anyway. I think everybody's got to do other tasks. I've got another live stream, America's Untold Stories. If you guys like Alec Baldwin, we're doing part 10 tonight.
Oh boy,
5:30 Eastern time. Joe won't be able to make it, but
of course
we are definitely doing that. And everybody can find you rekietalaw.locals.com.
All right.
LegalBytes.locals.com. Is it okay? Well, Good Lawgic. There you go. He's got it right there in his line. And then vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And everybody, thank you so much. Please consider subscribing. It really will help grow. I'll be doing more of these legal panels. Anybody who's familiar with it, I try to do it every fortnightly. And it's all different people, and it's always fun.
I've got to get ready for curfew, people.
All right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you, everybody. And guess what? I have a freaking outro, so I don't just have to cut you off mid-sentence. Oh,
I doubt it. I doubt it.
I love that picture, Nick. That's great.
No.